Howdy, howdy. How's everyone doing? Boxing Day. Exciting stuff. So exciting. Got a new setup here. Got to move around some nice stuff. How's everyone doing? Who we got here? We got anyone in yet? Oh, wow. Wowza, wowza. Yeah. So what's going on, everyone? Seemed like it was a good idea earlier to do a live stream. And I'm not sure why I was thinking that. Because right now, all I feel like doing is kind of lying on the couch. Not sure, not sure how high energy this is going to be. Hopefully, a couple of people will join, and we'll be able to have a chat. But I'm busy for the next few days, so I thought I would do a kind of end of year live stream. I've been traveling quite a bit this year, so I've collected quite a few. I think I went through Discogs and realized that I bought over like 150 records this year, which is quite a lot for me. So yes, I have a problem. But anyway, maybe we can talk about that later. But so I wanted to show a few things that I picked up over the last 12 months, maybe talk a little bit about, hey, Chris, about what my plans are next year. And hey, Stunty. And because I'm not going to be at home next year, I actually have a research leave. So I'm going to be traveling around quite a bit. So I've already started to kind of hit up some people to talk about, what's going on. Maybe hit some record fairs, do some visits, this, that, and the other. But yeah, so a little bit of a chat about kind of how the year's been, kind of what we've been finding as record collectors over the last 12 months or so, and then maybe talk a little bit about kind of what's coming up, right? What's on people's agenda for next year, what's on my agenda. This is like the first stream I've done in quite a while. Some people, hey Marty, some people might know that I'm also working on a documentary. Actually, I'm working on, I don't know if I've said this before, but right now I'm working on 3. No, that's not true. I'm working on 2 documentaries and then this really bizarre experimental film. So I'm not really an experimental filmmaker. So that'll be interesting. But that is actually the film that I got the most funding for. So I think when I get bored or when I get distracted, when I need to be distracted, I think I just start a new film project. So yeah. So those are just a few things to get us going. I see Jeff is joining us. Let me bring him up. Hey, Jeff. I like your hat. I like your alien hat. That's pretty cool. Is that a gift?
No, I got it at a conference this fall. It's a product that I use at work.
Okay, all right. Good stuff. So are you working today? It's like this is a holiday for us, right?
Yeah, not here in the States. Some companies, but my company, if the market's open, we're open.
Okay.
So yeah, technically.
So technically you should be working right now, is that what you're saying?
It just took off a little early.
Okay, all right. Let's go. That's what I figured, right? I figure if I start at 4:00, then maybe some people might join. Plus it's Thursday, so it's kind of right in the US, a bit of an unwritten rule that maybe Thursday, Friday are kind of half days or whatever.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I haven't lived in the States. Did I tell you before? I lived down in Boston.
New England, right?
Yeah, for quite a while. Florida for 1 year. That was weird.
Florida's different place.
Yeah. I liked it, but I really liked that I was only there for 9 months.
Yeah, I like the weather. I don't think I could live there though.
Yeah, the weather was great. Like in hey Paul, like in January, I used to take my students out and have classes on the lawn. In January, halfway through January, it'd be like 12 degrees outside.
Right.
That's Celsius, so whatever it was, like 65 Fahrenheit, right? So that was all.
That's cold in
That
Florida.
was great. Yeah.
Wearing
So Paul, what's going on? It's been a while, huh?
Yeah, not too much.
Yeah. How was your holidays?
It was good, pretty low key. Just hung around here and saw the Dylan movie, doing
Yeah.
a little record shopping, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. Did you hit? Well, that opened yesterday, didn't it?
I saw it on day before yesterday, Christmas
Day
Eve.
before yesterday. Okay. And what's your take? You're gonna give us your.
I enjoyed it. I think
your
it's.
review?
If you're going to nitpick over every detail being factually accurate, then that's maybe not the movie for you. But I thought they did a good job of kind of getting the gist and spirit of the story as I've heard it. So I enjoyed it.
Was it one of those kind of 3.5 hour films?
No, it wasn't that long. 2-ish. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah. Wow. It's been a while since I've been out to see a film. Usually go down. When you were here, Paul, did you go down to there's a nice kind of art cinema down on King Street in Toronto?
Mm-mm.
And they have a really good programming there. And they also do stuff with universities. So I go down there sometimes and get the grad students involved in different kind of film and research kind of projects. So it's kind of nominally, or maybe I should back that up. It's kind of tied to the International Film Festival here in Toronto. So every Saturday, every September, is an international film festival. But so about, I'm going to say maybe it's been a while now, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah, they got their own building right downtown near where the Blue Jays play, right? And the arena and stuff. So that really took cinema, to the next level, right? In Toronto. So all right, I'm just going to show a couple. Stunty wants to come up, but I'm embarrassing him already. So he's doing a wardrobe change before he comes, apparently. Marty's. I think Marty's on the road. He said he might pop up. I'm not sure. And then Chris. Does anyone know Chris? I don't think I know Chris, but Chris has got it. And Chris, we are here. There you go. Okay, we're up to date. So, Paul, I've been noticing you've been dropping a lot of, as you always do, dropping a lot of photos on Instagram. Are those all new things that you're posting, or?
Probably mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. And what kind of, where are you getting them from? From People's, or?
Yeah, a lot of them would be from People's, but I was at Record Graveyard not too long ago in Hamtramck. Got some cool things there. Lo and Behold, also in Hamtramck. Stopped in Solo Records, which is in generally kind of hit or miss, but I don't
remember that one.
Found a couple things there the other day.
Was Graveyard the one where it's an older fellow and the prices aren't the best, but you can find lots of good stuff there?
Yeah, I don't think the prices are bad, but they're not People's.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah,
it's like sometimes he weirdly has a record worth more than it should be, and then he'll weirdly have something dirt cheap.
Yeah,
it's very hit and miss.
It was. I think it was. I was just there. This is in Detroit for folks who don't know what we're talking about. But I was there kind of at the end of the day, and it was just the way the light was hitting inside that place. You could see all the dust. Like there was something really intense about the light and the dust, and
it's a graveyard.
It kind of freaked me out a little bit, and I'm not one for being all funny about breathing and masks and stuff like that, but but seeing it in the air was something else, right? Kind of like maybe I'm gonna take off.
I haven't been in the city since September.
Yeah, you've been busy with work, Jeff? Or?
Yeah, work, but I usually take a break from buying around the holidays.
Yeah.
So I'll be back.
Yeah. There's something about, I don't know, Paul, I don't think, I think we didn't get to meet up when you were in Toronto, but I was going to suggest going over to a place over in Ossington. It's called Rotate This. And it's a great store. And they're obviously buying more and more big collections, but they put them all in crates on the floor, literally on the floor. So you're having to kind of lean over and kneel down, and it just doesn't last very long. Right?
It's a young man's game.
It is painful,
yeah.
man. Yeah, but they put all the jazz on the floor for all the old dudes, you know.
Yeah, my knees can't handle it.
Make you work for it. So anyway, I wanted to show one of my presents that my kids got for me that I was really impressed with. I got some other things I want to talk about, but I want to show that. I was wondering if anyone's seen this thing. Has anyone seen this book?
No.
It's one of those. I don't know. Do you know how to pronounce that, Paul? Phaedon?
Yeah, Phaedon, I think. I've seen the book, but I've seen the cover. I've never looked at it.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. There, that's a little better, right? So the history of turntable design. So it's really focused. There's a lot of photos. It goes right back to the early days, you know, the 20s and what have you. But it kind of is more of a decade by decade. But it's awesome. It's really quite something. So it was a major thumbs up in terms of suitable gifts. It's like, you guys actually bought me something I really like this year. You know, there's some pioneer stuff. Anyway, so it's a nice kind of crossover, right, for people who are interested in design art, that kind of stuff, but also obviously turntables and kind of VC geeks like us, you know, fun stuff. So yeah, so that was my main thing this year. But I thought one thing I wanted to talk about a little bit that we don't get to talk about too much, or people don't like to talk about too much, is albums. Maybe this is kind of going to your point, Jeff, about maybe slowing down buying, or you know, not buying over the last little while. Is that I was going through and I was kind of cleaning up some of my collection. This is my overflow. And I was trying to pull out some stuff to show my kids, and then that way I started thinking, okay, well, why don't I do a stream? But I also noticed that quite a few LPs that I bought, I hadn't listened to. Like, it's pretty bad. I don't know.
Unopened.
Well, let's see. I just have a couple just for a laugh. It's kind of admission. Well, actually, these are all no, that one's new. Actually, one is one I got when I was down in Detroit. You recognize the sticker there, right? That's a People sticker. So I still haven't listened to this one. Do you have that one, Paul?
I do.
Clark. Yeah. Is it any good?
I remember liking it.
Yeah.
Spin it once, put it away. More, get the new ones in.
Yeah.
That's what I've been doing the last 2 months.
It has Zorn on it, right?
Yeah, that's why I bought it, right? Because he's got a lot of stuff on CD. I think we may have talked about that before. Yeah. So I haven't played that one. This one, sometimes I buy stuff and I'm like, why did I buy it? I don't know.
I bought this monstrosity.
So it's Paul Bley, Gary Peacock, Barry Elschultz. Does anyone have that one?
No.
I'm assuming that's fairly free jazzy, right? But that one's actually still,
I totally buy that.
Improvising artists.
You're into that stuff, aren't you? That 70s free jazz movement, Paul?
Yep.
dipping my toes into the spiritual jazz in the 70s, but the free jazz still, just my ear's still not right for it.
What year? I'm trying to figure out what year. That's a 76. Yeah. Improvising artist. I haven't seen that one. Sorry,
I've never seen that label.
No, neither have I. And apparently I haven't played it either. Let me put that to a side.
Yeah, did you guys see U Discovery has got a 50% off sale site-wide, just went live.
Mm-hmm.
All the tone poets, all the acoustic sounds, all the classics. You can buy brand new Blue Note classics for $13. Tone poets are $19.
That's really good.
So it's like, do I or don't I just stock up on them? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I feel like some of the tone poet for me, it's starting to lose a little bit of gas. I don't know. Just in terms of not for you.
I'm always torn between two sides of my collection, right? I love finding vintage records. That's like I've always loved that. I love the hunt, the dig. You know, I've said it many times. I don't really buy a lot of records online. I like to go find them in stores.
Yeah.
The other side of it is I got my gear up to halfway decent. You know, I don't call myself an audiophile, but I'm like a mid-file kind of thing, you know, so where these modern represses sound so damn good, you know. I mean, they sound, you know, so I don't know. I keep getting torn by it. So when they go,
like the classic series, people are still saying that they sound better than the early 70s stuff. Like
they sound different, right? Yeah. I don't know better. I think that's all a subjective topic.
Here, let me get through these. So I got two others, and then I'll pass it around. I'm not sure where I got that one. Well, speaking of, that's a white blue. That's a live one. Did I get that one in Detroit too when I saw you guys? I can't remember when I saw Paul.
I have that record. Yeah, that's an interesting record.
I haven't played it. So yeah, I trust you, Jeff. Anyway,
it doesn't.
Stunty, we're talking about albums that you bought you never listened to.
Oh, I have a magic trick for that. I do a weekly music stream. Every week I play 2.5 hours of music, so I always play the new stuff I just got.
Oh, do you play your new stuff? I didn't know that you played your new stuff. That would be a good way of doing it, right?
Oh, most weeks, or like if I don't play the new stuff, it's because I didn't have enough new stuff to play.
Oh, okay.
Like usually 2.5 hours. If I play one track per record, it's like 30 records usually. Like it's about like usually you play like 12 records per hour. Obviously sometimes like as I have more like long form music, or sometimes I want to play more tracks from a record that I want to share because it's a new artist that no one knows about. I mean, I have no rules, but that's basically the only records I have that I haven't listened to yet are records that I've had for more than 20 years that I still haven't listened to. Which
okay, so before the streaming days. Yeah, so you have an excuse.
No, but for example, there's a Soft Machine double live bootleg that I got for nothing, and I never got to. No, I probably have something like less than 10 records that I've never listened to out of like 15,000. So that's good.
And can I ask so when you do your streams on Friday with your new albums, how do you know what track to play, or do you just drop the needle and?
Oh no, yeah, I do. That's the thing, because I've tried to do something good. Usually, I spend at least an hour and a half before just checking which track am I gonna play. Sometimes, usually, if it's new stuff, I never buy, or like 99% of all my purchases are not blind buys. Even if it's an artist I like, I know I will listen to the whole record before, because there's nothing I like more than to realize that this new album by this artist I love, actually I don't need that one. So I'm very, very critical in my buying. So usually when I get a record, I've already know it. It's just about discovering and enjoying it on actual vinyl.
Yeah, that's the way to go for sure. Yeah. So, well, I don't have that many that I don't, but this one, Jeff, you were asking. Yeah. Well, that one they reissued, right? the Billy Harper, and that one's still sealed. He's playing in New York. I was thinking about going down and seeing him in New York. They got on the 12th or something at Smalls. They do streams. So I might. I'll see.
I also, about what Jeff was saying, I also have, like, now, for the past couple of years, I have a new method, a rule that has been serving me very well in being very happy with what I get. I don't get reissues at all, like zero. I only get originals and new records, which means that usually I have more money for originals.
Yeah.
Because I buy about like between 100 and 150 new releases a year. So everything else is old stuff. There's still tons of cheap old stuff. And the stuff that does get reissued, well, like, I've got enough records. So now I treat myself. Plus, I've got enough experience to know that, like, if I care about the sound, like 99% of the time, the original will always beat any reissue. Doesn't mean that the reissue can't sound good, but when you understand your way around, like, how a tape ages, like, the reason why you guys know names of mastering engineers is mostly because the names are hyped. Like, if I ask you, do you know of any bad mastering engineer? Usually people don't, because we only know the names that are hyped. And why are they hyped? Because these guys cost a lot, so you have to make money back on that. And why do they cost a lot? Yeah, because usually they have to have the gear to compensate for the loss of information in all those tapes. Like when Kevin Gray does this remastering, he doesn't just do a remastering, he does a restoration. He basically understands frequencies, how to add like more bass to basically disguise the lack of something that has become reality in the master tape. Or that is my take, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I do not disagree with that. I actually agree with you. Like what Kevin does, he's got that all tube system now too. So the sound does change. And then you have to take into account that, when they were doing these records in the 50s and 60s, these jazz records, people did not have the gear we have now to listen to them.
Well, the 50s, that's the beginning of the hi-fi culture, though. So,
but mass, they didn't want needle skipping. That's at least that's what I've read. That's why Rudy, did what he did with the low.
There's also, like, you were talking about tone poets and all that, and like people now positioning themselves knowingly or not, like maybe some peer pressure about, like, am I an audiophile or whatever?
Yeah.
I've decided, like, for me, like, pressing records, I know how to do that. So I know that you can't add while you press record. So when you got these people who announce an audiophile pressing, like, for me, that makes me laugh, because you can't, like, the culture of audiophilia was these guys who are into hi-fi and who test the records after they're manufactured and say, oh, this one actually sounds really good. But deciding that this record is going to be of audiophile standards before you even press it is laughable. So that's why I prefer to think about audiophile music nowadays, since if we're interested in, like, soundstage, the quality of sound of mixing, there are types of music that are 100% concerned with that even before the pressing, like just through the recording and the music production. So if I want to listen to great sounding music, on vinyl, I will look for what I call for audiophile music rather than audiophile pressing, because
that's a great point you make. Like for me, I like to collect the music more than the pressings. That's what I enjoy. And for me, what Universal is doing with the Blue Note reissue series is an affordable way for me to collect Blue Note music. Because, trying to find the first presses and even the second and up into the Liberties now in the States, like a clean Liberty of a known record, it's $100 now. So it's so for me, it's just a way for me to collect the music. But when I do find a deal on the vintage jazz record in good shape, I tend to buy it because the sound of it is, and it's a different sound. It just is.
It's different. It is
history of that record too, like who owned it, when it was pressed, why is, this is a 60-year-old record in this shape? What's the story?
There's also the idea of how our own culture, record collectors, collecting records, moves. And I've noticed that for myself. You guys tell me if you notice the same thing for you, but I spend more money on records than ever. Like, my budget on single records has increased, gradually, but like very massively so in the past few years. So now I know that that's what I want. So just spending 30-40 bucks on a record because it's a cheaper reissue, when I know that down the line I will want an original anyways.
I'm not there yet. I think I'm gonna get
so
there.
You can wait. Is that what you're saying, Stanty?
Yeah,
you're a patient man.
Well, patient and not, because we also know that all these records are disappearing. So it's a race as well.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah, I think the thing, for Paul and Jeff, they both know I was in Detroit last year. Stanty, we talked a little bit before. I was in Stockholm the year before that, and what strikes me about both of those cities is they have, long and recent histories of music and education, very, very intense ones, right? In that that music is absolutely at the heart of the culture of both those cities. People don't necessarily talk about Stockholm in that way, but the kids are classically trained to a degree that maybe in Denmark they do as well. I don't know about France, Stunty. They certainly aren't in the UK. It's a more class divided thing. They certainly aren't in Canada or the US, in my experience growing up. Or I have two kids that went through, of course, the education system. But Stockholm, I was so impressed by just the general populace's knowledge of music, and I think that contributes to the availability of the kind of collections that you're talking about. Don't you think, Stunty?
Well, Sweden is a little bit of quite unique in a very specific way, which is that culturally in Sweden, the culture is to not stick out. It's a socialist country, so you have to be humble and not to be flamboyant, which means that you have an incredible pool of great producers, people who know how to make music rather than to create. So they are more like artisan than artists, which ended up with Sweden for the past 30 plus years being the third biggest exporter of music in the world after the US and the UK. People don't realize that, but much
95% of that is ABBA.
No, it's the hits of the charts in the US are most. Yeah, but I understand, but we don't realize how much pop music is actually produced by Swedish guys in a studio in Stockholm, in an underground studio in Stockholm or in the suburbs there. Because I'll give you one example. I moved to Sweden because I had a band with a Swedish guy, and we had a little complex with 7 studios. So we had our own studio, and we rented out 6 other small rooms for other producers, musicians. And one time, one guy left, and we were interviewing the next one. And he was a 17-year-old kid, and I asked him what his goal is, and his goal was straight up. It was very clear in his mind. I want to be a ghost writer. So he totally bypassed the whole "I want to be a rock star" thing. 17 years old. He had already integrated the whole aspect of the economy of it, how to make it sustainable for him in a small country like Sweden. And he was very determined, and it worked out well for him.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the point that you were saying before, Senti, about the audiophile releases and where that fits into your collecting, do you think there's a relationship between what I just put on the table, or Paul, do you want to jump in there too, in terms of Detroit has such a deep, well-known music culture, right? Do you think that the record stores in and around Detroit play more to what Stunty's talking about, to the to the music, as opposed to the pressings, right? Or the you got to have the latest whatever remastered, this, that, and the other. That I didn't really think about that. That's a really interesting point that Stunty's raising. I didn't think about that when I was there, but is that something that you notice?
I mean, I think it really depends on what store you're going to. I mean, there are stores here that are just like the stores anywhere else, where they're going to have the Tone Poets, they're going to have the Atlantic 75 remasters, MoFis, whatever. I generally don't go to those stores because I'm not really after. I'm only selectively after reissues, very selectively after those. And generally, if I'm looking for new music, I try to buy it directly from the artist. You can find plenty of that in Detroit, but I think that there is also a record culture here that is, I think rooted in people enjoying the music of the community, in people, I think that you can't underestimate the importance of like hip hop and electronic music culture here, and how much is about digging and finding the old stuff to be creative with, right? And so I think that we have pretty amazing stores that are not fixated on the latest repressings, audiophile, etc., because of that.
Mm-hmm. And they don't have the little hype sticker saying sampled by, or
right.
That seems to have come and gone a little bit. That those hype stickers that say includes sampled by such and such an artist, or sampled by if it's an earlier LP, right? It seems to be like 2, 3, 4 years ago that was a thing. I'm not seeing it anymore, but I don't know. That's just me.
Paul, do you ever go to Submerge?
I have been there. They have very limited hours for in person. They're only open maybe like 3 to 7 on Saturdays or something like that. So I've been there, but the stars have to align for me to make that visit. But they actually have a really cool museum upstairs from Submerge, which I think they call it like the Techno 3000 exhibit. So if you go there, they have generally one of the UR guys who will give you a tour of that, and it's really pretty amazing and worthwhile.
Paul, is that the secret store that you told me about after I left Detroit?
No. So Submerge is a big it's a storefront run by a big big techno distributor, techno electronic music distributor.
Oh, yes.
There's also Detroit Threads, which is a couple miles away from that, which has more human hours. It's easier to get to. That is also, I think, a really excellent place for people looking for electronic music and crate digging for things that you might sample.
Yeah. Do you want to mention just a couple other places for Fitz? Fitz is out in Vancouver. He might join us later. I'm not sure. But he's from Toronto. I think he said he grew up in Toronto, but he lives out in Vancouver, and he's asking about the good record stores in Detroit.
Well, it all starts with People's Records down in Detroit.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming through there. I think, Jeff, last time that we were on the stream, you were talking about some guy from one of the big London shops filling up his box to take back.
The owner of Sound of the Universe was at People's just buying crates full of 12 inches to send back to London.
Yeah.
It's an interesting store. I'll get in there and talk to people in the crates, and there's a lot of out-of-towners that make the drive. I was talking to some other guy in the VC. He lives up in Buffalo, and he drives to Detroit at least 3-4 times a year just to go to People's.
I haven't heard much. Well, where I am, it's probably about an hour and 40 minutes to Detroit, and I've never been down there. No one's really said
it's sort of ferry between Detroit and Toronto.
I think about 10 years ago they were putting in they had a boat between Toronto and Rochester, and there are 1 or 2 really good record stores there, but it didn't last.
Once they open the new bridge, I think it'll really open up a little bit.
You mean between Windsor and
they're putting the new bridge in.
Yeah, there's also talk of improving the rail service between Toronto and Chicago. with Detroit in the middle of that.
That would be really cool.
They've been talking about that for a long time, Paul.
Other record stores in Detroit that I hit. I'm like Paul. I don't go into record stores normally. I only go into one record store that sells new records, and that's in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And that's Encore Records, because Ann Arbor has got a huge history of jazz music. Michigan in general is a big jazz state. Yeah. If you're collecting jazz records, they're in basements all over and attics all over this state. So even where I live in Lansing, which is in the middle of Michigan, so I'm an hour and 15 from downtown Detroit, I find really good quality records in Lansing, Michigan. Mm-hmm. We've talked about the Record Graveyard in Hamtramck. That's hit or miss. The other one that I like to hit a lot is Hello Records. I really like Hello Records. The guy does not put any junk out in his bins. Everything's really clean and affordable. And that's
on the west part of town, right?
It's in downriver. Yeah, it's downriver. We call it downriver, south of Detroit, the Detroit River. Yeah, so we call it.
Yeah, I popped in there. That was well worth it as well. Yeah, the prices are really good. Yeah, Fitz, let us know. Let Paul, Jeff, or me know. I'm probably going to go down. I'm not sure when I'm going to go down. I might come down in January. My partner, she's going to Japan for the month, so I'm going to be solo. So that always gives me a license to.
The Ann Arbor
license to travel,
I think third weekend of January.
Yep.
Yeah, I looked at that. Yeah, we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, I think
that's a great show.
Yeah. But yeah, Fitz, let us know about that.
Is that it's kind of isolated geographically, and so like they're the only shop that buys from that area of Detroit, and so they get pretty good collections in down there.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah. They used to be in the city, but their building was falling apart.
Yeah, they're in Corktown, I think.
Yeah, they were in Corktown, yeah. Which is the old Irish neighborhood of Detroit, for those who are not familiar with Detroit. And that's where the old Tiger Stadium was.
Yep.
And it's being redeveloped right now. I was just down there, Paul, this summer. Do you see what they're doing down on the corner of Trumbull and Michigan?
Oh,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I'm going down there tomorrow. I'm part of the local Arsenal supporters club, and that's where the watch parties are. So,
Arsenal. Wow. Hang on. Let me just drop you off this stream right now. Hang on. How do we do that? Oh, there we go. Sorry, Paul.
I mean, the thing with Detroit is it's a transient city. It used to be much more when the big three, the automakers, were employing tens of thousands of people. There was always families moving in and out of the city and stuff. It's kind of died down, but it's still, it's still like that in a lot of ways.
Haven't they reopened is it the old GM or the old train station that they've reopened as a?
It's the old train station.
Art museum. Am I getting that right?
I don't know what they're doing with it.
It's a kind of a tech hub, innovation incubator.
Okay.
But like I said, those are what I do in Detroit. And then always, if you're in Michigan, it's always good to hit Encore Records in Ann Arbor. And Ann Arbor's one of the best college towns in the upper Midwest.
There's another great shop in Ann Arbor called Technical.
Okay.
It's been around for like 15, 20 years now, I think. It's run by two musicians. And it's like electronic music, hip hop, soul, and everything in between. And it's really an underground selection. It's really great shop. The guy, he's done great records, and he also builds airplanes. So it's really someone you go to and you start to talk with him, and if he's available, you'll spend like 5 hours talking with him.
Oh, those are great visits.
Yeah, another good one, Melodies and Memories, which is kind of a corny name, I think, but it's in East Point, which is just on the eastern border of Detroit. But it's, if you like to dig, it's a good place to go. You'll find they don't have a lot of really high end rare records or reissues, but if you're looking for kind of obscure soul, hip hop, jazz, it's a good place to go. Dilla used to like to go there to search for things for his tracks.
So yeah, have fun. Anyone's, I'm pretty active on the Jazz Bums Discord. So if anyone's active there, just hit me up. I can put them on a dig in Detroit.
Ron was talking about Montreal versus Toronto record stores. I was supposed to be up in Montreal this weekend, actually.
There's with music, there's a big connection between Toronto and Detroit with techno, in the sense that when techno started in 84, 5, 6, 86, like the 3-4 main guys of techno, suddenly they got booked in Europe every weekend. And they basically had no headliners for the techno parties in Detroit suddenly. And that's how Richie Houghton, Plastic Man, became big, because he was going every weekend to Detroit to fill a vacuum, basically, and became very influential. And now he's someone who is probably one of the biggest name of the music, even if he is like a white guy, born in the UCAB, raised in Toronto, and but he was like the herald of Detroit techno in the late 80s, early 90s, which also means like there was that techno became big in Toronto as well, that way.
Yeah, they have a huge festival every year in Detroit. It's huge.
Yeah,
the whole city shuts down.
DMF.
Yeah.
Who was that band, Paul, that you were posting about? I'm going to say about 3 weeks ago, that you really liked. It was a jazz band, but you said they were coming up to Toronto. They were doing like 2 or 3 shows in Toronto. Do you remember that? You said it was a younger band.
Oh yeah, Harmolodics. So it's based on the Ornette Coleman's ideas about music, but they do. It's really just a duo. It's drums and trumpet, but the trumpet is heavily processed through electronics, and they're really pretty interesting. I don't know how much they've recorded, but I saw them at I've seen them a couple times, but they were at the Detroit Jazz Festival around Labor Day, and they were really fantastic.
Okay.
What's their name?
Duo or trio?
Harmolodics. Harmolodics.
Harmolodics. HARMOLODICS. Yeah, it says a trio. Yeah, drummer, trumpet, and it looks like a bassist.
Bass player. That's right.
It was fun. It was funny after I saw that, because we're having. I'm not sure if it's the same in your respective cities, but in Toronto, there's been a total collapse of the music newspaper, or what used to be the music and entertainment newspaper industry. I know it's the same, like Village Voice, and you can go through city and say the same thing, but even in smaller markets like in Vancouver, there's still a small entertainment paper, but it's completely collapsed here, and so all the clubs are struggling to kind of advertise, to get the word out about shows. So when Paul sent me the note about that Harmolodics show, I went to and it was at 3 different venues. I don't know if you remember this, Paul. And I went to all those venues, and not a single one had them listed as playing. It was very strange, and that's not unusual, right? There's just a lot of shows that are not obviously getting any air, any promotion through entertainment newspapers, and obviously the clubs can't keep up with their websites to promote the shows. So I think a lot of stuff is going on Instagram now, because it's much easier, right? To make a template. Boom.
There was a study recently of how artists promote themselves nowadays, and Instagram is by far number 1.
Yep.
YouTube is number 2. Actually, Facebook is number 2, but YouTube is where more content is created, and X is only like 4th nowadays. But do you still have, like in Sweden, we still have here are 2 magazines that like monthly that you can get for free in record stores. This one, I don't remember which one of these has like a Danish and a Norwegian edition, and then a Swedish edition. And I mean, they're not great or anything. It's mostly, but actually, what's interesting, it mostly focuses on Swedish bands.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's ads for gigs. Is it the larger gigs, or they're like club listings and things like that?
I mean, if I want to buy ad space, I can. So,
yeah.
Well, I mean, Detroit still has the Metro Times, right, Paul? That's still around the city.
And that's
yeah,
a print.
it's pretty spotty in terms of live music.
They used to be statewide back in the day. That's what you always saw in all the record stores, bars, clubs, the Metro Times. But
yeah.
But as far as like like magazines anymore, they're all gone. I mean, even Rolling Stone, I think, is like a little.
Yeah, I just find Instagram just not very user friendly, right? And you got to search, and it's just total serendipity whether or not it comes across. And I think that might have been with the band we were talking about. I think I came across it when Paul posted it on Instagram or something, you know. So if I see it, I see it, but often I don't. Well, obviously, you know. So it's just serendipity. It's not. You can't really search Instagram, can you? For bands.
There's another aspect, which is. Like we are all, I assume, above 45, right? Sorry, Greg. You
keep on going.
It means that, I mean, for the longest time, for me, Wire magazine was a must-read. Mm-hmm. And then after a while, it felt like, okay, I've gone through one cycle of Wire magazine where for my generation, they went through all music history, and now they have to start again and again, which means that for most of us, we already know music. Like buying music magazines where we've probably all subscribed to dozens of Bandcamp pages, where we are subscribed to Instagram accounts of artists that we follow, labels. Like why would we pay? And I say that as a former editor of a music magazine in France, like, why would we pay for something that we already have our own networks? Because I didn't buy music magazines for the interview of blah, blah, blah most of the time. Most of the time, I bought the magazines for the advertisement, either be it reviews or straight up advertisement from labels, record stores that were telling us what is coming out. There's no need for that anymore.
Yeah, well, you didn't really have to buy them before, right? They were all ad driven. And I think for me, what it was helpful for, like crucial for, was when a ticketed show was coming up. And that would always be announced on whatever, the Monday issue. And 9 times out of 10, it would be like Friday at noon is when, you know, you went online to get your ticket or lined up, queued up, or whatever it was, right? But so if it's a small venue, you know, if it's a hot band or, you know, or both, you're out of luck now, right? Unless you're super connected or you happen to, it comes across your Instagram, you know?
When I was a kid, it was always, you always looked at certain street corners because they always had the flyers. I wish that I kept all those that I got back in the day.
Hey, Ron.
Actually, I just bought this for the first time. It's issue 119, so it's been going on for 10 years now. It's about all forms of electronic music, so it can be like from prog to techno with everything in between. And this one features an article about Throbbing Gristle, but the thing with that magazine is that each issue comes with a 7-inch. Usually it's sort of a vanity pressing. It's like not unreleased tracks. This is just their pressing of it. This one came with a 7-inch of 2 so far unreleased Throbbing Gristle tracks from basically their very last studio recordings. There's the box set of Throbbing Gristle coming up, but it's like a 4 CD plus 1 10-inch. So there's a chance that the 2 tracks on that 7-inch are going to be exclusive to that one, which would be a first for that magazine. So I took a chance, and because like, yeah, I mean, it's not that expensive. I thought it was more like, it's like £8. But like when you look at magazines like Record Collector, Rolling Stones, Mojo, nowadays, these magazines, they're worth like what, like $15, $16?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I think they, yeah.
and they're so
For us, they start around $20 now. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, they. Well, when did they move? When did they move to that model, Stunty? Do you think where they had exclusive CDs? It was during the CD era. I just answered my own question, didn't I?
Yeah, the CD was a sort of desperate attempt to
Glued to the
give
front.
something extra,
Yeah.
so that people would still think, oh, it's worth buying. I mean, it started when the internet started to really take over. I think it was probably around like between 2000 and 2005 that magazine that was pretty normal, standard to have a promo mix CD or whatever in a music magazine.
Yeah, Melody Maker always would have a 7-inch thrown in. You could find those in certain record shops that had a lot of UK imports, you know.
No, Melody Maker didn't have a 7-inch. It was a weekly newspaper. Like,
oh, okay, I must be. I'm thinking of something else. Then there was a UK, like it was a post-punk magazine. They always had a sampler, like a 7-inch in it. I had a bunch of them back.
Don't you think that you may be mixing up with like with punk and indie in the UK? It was a tradition of having singles club. Label had like a monthly singles club, like Rough Trade, for example, like Sub Pop have in because like a magazine having a weekly 7-inch.
Yeah, that would have been unaffordable.
Well, they used to produce. Do you remember?
But they were on the
square ones.
They were those plastic,
kind of plasticky. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking of.
Sometimes, they would, but that would be a very occasional thing.
Okay.
Like disco,
because we would have saw them in bags, And
I wonder where they produce those these days. I got one that was produced by. You guys probably don't know the band, the Rio Statics. Rom, do you know Romo? You know the Rio Statics, a big Toronto band, and I'm going to say the rhythm guitarist has become a big kind of cultural worker leader in the city. Organizes festivals, film festivals, or arts festivals, and he started up a local newspaper, and so he has one of those, floppy disk 45s, and I was just thinking, who presses those things these days? How much does it cost to produce?
Well, usually
one of those? Just one side, isn't it? I think it's just one side.
Square ones are usually only one side. Then you have proper flexi 7-inches where you sometimes have both sides.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about the floppy one side. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like if we go back to the audiophile make believe stuff, like when you have like the 180 gram, 120, 140, etc. Like the deepest cut for a groove would be 0.1 millimeter, which means that when a 12-inch that is 140 gram is almost 3 millimeters thick. It's a little less, but so that means that you only need 0.2 maximum. But the flexi discs, that's much thinner. So then you might have an issue there.
Yeah. Romuald, do you know Jeff, Paul? I just thought I'd take a pause and
never heard.
Introduce. Do you want to
introduce? Romuald. Say
yes. Make up a profile for yourself. No.
I'm not gonna lie.
Are you at home in Montreal for the holidays then?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, enjoying the festive season with a lot of snow and cold.
I was supposed to be, as I was saying to you, I was supposed to be up in Montreal, and then I had the world's stupidest accident at home, banged my head. Soon realized a day after that I still do. I have a concussion. I went to go see the doctor, mild to moderate concussion, and this was about a week ago.
So do you postpone the trip or?
Well, my wife went up because all her family from France are coming in, right? Hey, Marty. So they're all up there in Montreal for a few days, eating foie gras and stuff at nice restaurant up on the plateau, and then they're heading up to Mont Saint Anne to go skiing. So having a big Quebec experience, you know.
Wow.
There's my nephew. This is my wife's family. They're all from Paris, and he's university age, and he's I think a third-year university student, and he does video gaming. And apparently up in Chicoutimi, which is how far from Montreal is that?
Chicoutimi, that's in the lake.
North.
Yeah, the North Lake Saint Jean.
Yeah, it's like
5-6 hours drive up north. Yeah.
Yeah, so quite remote, northern Quebec, and apparently it's like 100% kids from French kids from Paris there,
really?
who are kind of on some kind of exchange program that the Quebec government is organizing. So that's why one part of my family are over in Quebec. And
bon, ben, on peut dire les Américains, on les encule ici aussi, alors non, Romuald, c'est ça?
Il est canadien, donc tu regardes avec lui.
Ah ouais, okay. So. Romuald and I, we have a French channel together called Disque de Dupif, which basically means records and booze. Yeah. And one of our catchphrases is the Americans, we fuck them in the ass, basically.
all class, all the time.
That sounds fun.
I'm not sure how well that translates, Stunty.
Yeah, well. Translates very well when you got some fine red wine or even some bad one.
Oh, okay.
It's just about the French, the French exceptionalism, so that we like.
Yes.
We play our own caricature, basically.
Why? We can tell why we started to say that, because we realized in the French VC they were like massively influenced by the Americans, like so we wanted to prove so we can be French again.
Yeah.
And is it working? Or?
Yeah. Yeah,
it'll work until I show up. I will show up. I am going to show up one of these days. Well, when I move to France, which is going to be, I was telling Stunty this earlier this week, I'm going in May or June. I have my research sabbatical.
If you come to France in May, in the area where you're going to,
Auvergne,
we'll meet at the World Cup of Saucisson Sec, which I was in the jury for the very first edition.
I thought you were winding me up a little bit, Stunty.
Nope. I never do that.
So just to bring everyone on board here, so Stunty and I are having this exchange about God knows what, and I said, well, let's continue this conversation, when I'm in France or something like that. We were half joking, and then I said I'm going to be down in near Clermont in Auvergne. It's about 3 hours on the trains directly south of Paris. And there's two things there, right? There's ham and cheese, right? Or let me say pork and cheese.
Not the dead volcano and fuck all.
Yeah. It's really pork and cheese, and pork and cheese, and the other thing, cheese and pork, right? So,
Greg, did you say Laval?
Did I say again, Marty? Sorry.
Did you say you're going to be in Laval?
Clermont.
Clermont.
Oh, okay.
Clermont.
I was going to say my daughter's in Laval teaching English right now. That'd be weird.
How do you spell that, Laval?
Is it Level? Laval?
Which
I'm
Laval?
Laval.
Laval.
Not the Laval in France. The Laval.
Yes, in France.
In France.
In France. Yes.
Okay.
Laval is a shithole in France. Huh?
She seems to like it.
I was just waiting for that.
Well, it's better than America, obviously, but
nice.
She was in Lyon last year.
So Marty, Lyon is about an hour and 20 minutes from where I'm going to be living.
From Clermont by train.
Yeah. I'm just up the hill from Clermont. So
Clermont has for Greg the biggest animation movie festival in the world.
I think they have it like a history film festival there or something.
Yeah,
They've got
also.
a few film festivals.
Mm.
It's one of these cities in France that have done a really amazing job of maintaining their cinema, their old cinemas, like single screen cinema, right? So that'll be fun. Where are you heading there, Marty? You're not heading to Laval. Where are you heading? Can you hear me?
Actually, I'm not done for the day. I just got. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. I can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm headed back to the yard. I'm wrapping up for the day, and yeah. So I'll be finished in about 15 minutes, which will be good. I'm tired. I started at 4 this morning.
So unfair. We've got the day off up here in Canada, right? Boxing Day. Boxing Day.
Yeah, that's right. Boxing Day.
Boxing Day is kind of like soccer day, right, Paul? Where you watch the Premier League.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I was a kid growing up in the UK, that's what we did on the 26th. You go out and see a football game.
So that's another
for Liverpool to take the biggest lead since Chelsea lost, Manchester City did even, Manchester United lost. It's going well.
Yeah, I have the game on over there, but I can't quite see it. So I shouldn't stare at the screen too long with my concussion.
So Boxing Day is another tradition that we in the VC we seem to have forgotten. Since
Why is that?
But there is absolutely no one that did an unboxing of Elton John box set today. Why?
That's a good question. Maybe we should start that tradition.
No.
The box set. Stunty, pull out your favorite box set. I don't know. Why didn't I think of this? Come on, pull out your favorite box set. I don't have any box sets. I don't have a single. No, I have one. I have one box set. No, it's right here. It's still unopened. Hang on.
Here's a pretty cool one. So it's literally
the Doors. Is that the new Doors one, Jeff?
Yes,
that's the Phil Knobloch or Niblock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Paul, I even, you know what? Because this, so there's four. You're supposed to have two turntables and to play to any combination possible of the four sides. Obviously, you can't. There's a combination you can't do. So I bought 2 copies of it, so I can actually do it in any possible combinations. And I'm so happy to see Paul knows this, because for me this was.
Yeah, I only have 1 copy, but I have it.
So sorry, guys,
only made 200
missed out. What is it, Stunty? What's the box?
So this is Phil Knobloch. I don't know if
you can see it. Yeah.
Phil Knobloch. Actually, there's a jazz connection since in the late 50s. He did a lot of. He was a photographer and he did covers for Blue Note, and for other labels like that. But he was part of the loft scene in New York with La Monte Young, Terry Riley, etc. And he is basically the first one who was actually doing drone music, but he was not the best at marketing, so he missed the first boat for that. So he never became the one like Terry Riley or Philip Glass or Steve Reich who got a big contract with one of the big companies. His first records came out on India Navigation, if I remember correctly, in early 80s, and they were already old compositions. He died. He passed away this year in January or February, and in the past 5, 6, 7 years, he's had a resurgence, in appreciation, and this was to be his 3rd album that was supposed to come out as a double LP, but it was in the early 90s, and they decided, we're going for CD. So in this case, it's one of these rare cases where you get finally the vinyl reissue of a CD, but that was originally meant to be a vinyl for obvious reasons.
And what kind of music is it?
It's basically it's very minimalistic. So it's drone music. It's cello, saxophone, and it's
Nib locked
There's
in.
another bearded man with with glasses like us.
Wasn't he a filmmaker?
He might have.
Soundtracks? Yeah. I should check that out. Anyway. Jeff, do you want to show your box? Everyone needs to grab a box.
Yeah, I sprung for this Doors box set, this monstrosity.
Is that the recent one that everyone was talking about?
Yeah, this is what all the audiophile channels went crazy for.
Yeah.
Last month was this thing.
And what's your take?
It's worth picking up your favorite Doors record when they release these individually. That's my take. The surprise was Morrison Hotel. Sounded way better than my old Monarch, for what it's worth. Really cool set. I don't know if I'm down with the gatefolds though. I mean, they put some kind of cool pictures in there that weren't really part of it, but they don't reproduce the label, you know. But as far as reissues go, pretty darn snazzy. I like these Rhino hi-fis. I think they're pretty good.
Paul, you got your box set unboxing day for us?
Give me a minute. I'll go find one.
All right.
Marty, get your favorite box set right now.
I was going to give. Let's give Marty a couple extra minutes here.
I only have one box set at home, but I won't be showing.
I will say right now, you guys can get this crap box set right here for like $40. It's worth getting. It's restored Savoys. It's basically like a compilation of 78s that they put out. It's really interesting music. It's bebop.
I've seen that one around. This is the only one I have. The Pharoah Sanders one.
I don't own a lot of boxes. I don't usually buy them.
I haven't opened it yet.
Another one.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
You have a problem, Greg.
So Beat Happening.
Okay.
Box set came out maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. But it reissues all of their studio albums, and then this was a odds and ends comp that came out at the end of their career. But kind of early Pacific Northwest, pretty influential indie pop.
They were on K Records, right?
Yeah, Calvin Johnson, who is their singer, runs K Records.
Cool.
I saw them live in a sort of crack house in Paris in like 91 or 92.
Yep.
Do you remember a band called Mecha Normal?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was like 3 bands. It was Beat Happening, Mecha Normal, and Heavens to Betsy.
That's quite the lineup for that time.
Yeah, but back then you didn't realize it was just like these like random unknown bands, and now it's the kind of bands that get box sets in Numero Group and stuff like that.
All right, I got another category here. I don't know if people have things close to them, so I'll give you a heads up. I'll drone on a bit longer than I normally do. All right, well you can stretch out there. I only have half my stuff up here. Everything else is downstairs. This stunt, I may have showed this one to you. So this is an album I bought when I was in Slovenia in September, and so the category of this LP for 2024 is most awesome shitty album, and the reason why this is most awesome and shitty is because it is an amazing. Sorry, let me move that around a little bit. It's an amazing session. It's a live LP. Of course, Thomas Stanko, and the Finnish drummer Edward Vasala. It's quite rare. It's quite rare. It's a Polish imprint from Helicon Records. Helicon, yeah, I'm pronouncing that right. But and again, love the picture in the back. It kicks ass as a session. It's absolutely fantastic, but this sounds like shit. Like the vinyl sounds terrible. It just sounds flat. There's no separation whatsoever. It's muffled. I've cleaned about 5 times. You know, this is a $150 LP, and I got to get rid of it because it sounds terrible. So that's a great sales job, isn't it? That'll give you insight on my future as a
record dealer,
record flipper in the VC. But so yeah, I'm torn, right? Because it really kicks. I put it on every now and again, but every time I put it on, it's just.
It goes back. Do you collect music or do you collect the press, right?
Yeah. Well, you'd have to have a little bit of both. Like, you don't want to have something that sounds shitty, right?
Yeah, that's why I don't understand people like, even if like, you know, people who collect original Blue Notes and stuff like that. I don't understand why you would want to get like anything beyond or below VG plus. Like, why?
Yeah. No, I don't. No, that's where I unless I have it in my hands and I look at it and I use my Greg Spidey sense and have a sense that I can clean it up, but no, nothing under VG plus. Yeah. But it's not that, Santi. No, it's like the actual vinyl. It's
I understand.
It's not scratched. There's no noises in it at all. In fact, you look at it, and it's just pristine. It's just a shitty, recording or press.
Are you sure though? Because like there's like one of my favorite drone records from a band called Mirror, which comes from the post-industrial scene. It's basically bowed cymbals. So it's like very droney music, and one of the records, which is my favorite, like I bought it 3 times, and it's got horrible background noise. And I did enough investigation to actually believe that there might be some copies that don't have it, and I might have one on the way now from the US. Like that, I asked the guy, and he told me, "Yeah, I've recorded it. I've listened back to it, and there's like 4 clicks." In total, in the first 4 or 5 minutes, and then nothing else. Like the copies I've bought have like thousands of clicks. So I'm very excited about that prospect of upgrading. Like, and it also makes me feel very old and legitimate and powerful and rich and white.
In that order.
But just imagine like that world where we're upgrading. Yeah. Like,
yes,
what a privilege. Huh?
I don't know. I don't know if I've upgraded ever. I'm gonna say I probably have, but I can't think of a single LP off the top of my head where I've upgraded. I would only upgrade if it was one of my top 20, top 30 LPs that I just have to upgrade the sound on.
Wait till you come to Den Bosch.
Yeah. Well, when I was in the Netherlands for 6 months once, and I saw it online, and then I was too overwhelmed by the picture. Forget about the experience. Anyone else have an LP that they want to show that was wonderfully horrible or awesome LP that you were disappointed by or anything like that?
Well, Jeff just showed the Doors box set, so he did a double
whammy.
The double whammy. Paul, do you have anything you want to show?
Yeah, not handy, but it's there was a couple years ago. Fat Possum did a reissue series for Spiritualized, and they did a pressing of Pure Phase on glow in the dark vinyl, and I should have known better than to get that, but it is so terrible.
Glow in the dark.
Yeah, I bought all those Dinosaur Jr. Fat Possum presses and I ended up selling them all. I didn't like how any of them sounded.
Paul, did you get of that album the companion, like the DJ Loop one?
No.
Because like for the longest time, people thought that was a joke, that record. But now culture is there, and we understand, oh no, that was actually dead serious, and it's actually great music.
Marty, what did you get for presents this year? Did you get anything good?
Oh, we're not
any good VC related stuff.
Well, my daughters that are around, the one that's not in France, they're all coming over this coming weekend, so we haven't done presents till this weekend. But right. I've given myself a lot of presents this year. Yeah,
Marty, have you thought about what you like? like out of all these like 600 plus records you bought this year, how
Yeah.
many were not from 1974?
There's been at least 630 from 74, and I've probably bought 30 or 35 non-74 albums. I'm trying to be super picky. I've actually bought in a couple hundred albums, but there's a local antique store that I sell albums to kind of support my habit. So I've been buying just a lot of mainstream rock and roll stuff. I'll take it home, clean it, listen to it and bag it, and then take it down there. So as far as keepers, I've probably added 35 or 40 non-74s. It's been a 74 obsession all year. It's been fun. It's been fun.
Sorry,
I like
sorry.
it.
Can we back up for people who've been concussed this week? But I missed the conversation. Did you say that you bought over 500 LPs this year, Marty?
Oh no, over 600 probably over 650.
Okay, all right.
That's 650.
And why were you asking about 1974? Because this is obviously something you said on your stream. That's your sweet spot.
Well, that's the year. It's my birth year. So I turned 50 this year, and I just thought, you know what? This was, I think, last March or whatever. I just thought, I'm going to start collecting 74s and just see what I can come up with. And it's been a wild ride. I haven't purchased any
kept
online.
On going.
And where
you bought over 500?
Yeah, over 600.
Over 600. Sorry.
Yeah.
But how many were more cost you more than $15?
That's a great question. Probably 100. I had several records that I was able to trade. I had a second press Are You Experienced? I had a Tony Rice that's worth about 125. A bunch of classic rock stuff that I just didn't really want, that I just streamed, that I traded. Probably the most expensive of those 74s so far has been Gong UK Press U. Does that ring a bell at all?
Yeah. I have the French pressing of it here.
Yeah, I really like that album. I think that was 70 or 75 bucks. I got a Sun Ra that was about $50. A couple of Alligator Records from Detroit released 2 albums in 74. That was just kind of the beginning of Alligator Records, and I got 2. They're both releases, Hound Dog Taylor and Fenton Robinson. I got 2 promos from. They're both promos from my favorite record store, which is out on the coast here in a town called Newport. And it was on July 4th, and I didn't know he was going to be open. I was riding my motorcycle by, and I just I swung in, and I was looking through the new arrivals, and they were just right there. Those are probably they'd be in my top 5 or 6 of my favorite albums from 74. They were really cool white label promos from Alligator, which was kind of fun.
I was kind of imagining, Marty, that you were driving up with your big rig to, just doing short detours over to estate sales, and pressing your stopwatch and, okay, I'm going to give myself 15 minutes to run through there and grab your 1974 LPs and get back on the road. No.
Yep.
No.
Parking is the problem with that scenario. Yeah. I have done I've been able to, where I've gone overnight and stuff. I've walked to like thrift shops and antique shops with, I always check whatever hotel I'm staying at. I'm always looking to see. And last week I scored about 10 or 15 records from 74 from a Goodwill and a St. Vincent de Paul's. And one of them, the highlight of it was Richard Pryor's 1974 released. I don't think I can say it on the stream because YouTube probably catch it. But it's, comedian. The comedian. It's called That N-Word's Crazy. Yeah. It's not super funny, but it's in near mint condition, and I haven't seen it anywhere. And so and that cost me $3. I was really happy to pick that. It's like a $25 album. It's not big, but that was really cool.
So do you do long haul or are you just regional route?
I did. I just recently, just in April, I put in my time as a long haul guy. You got to do that. and then in April I have a job that's my home yard is only 2 miles from my little town of 10,000 people. I drive for an agricultural company delivering fertilizer and stuff like that up and down in the Northwest. But mostly I'm home every night. I'm gone sometimes depending on what we do because it's seasonal. But most nights, which is nice.
I'm just wondering, like that project for me, I don't know how long you've been buying records, but I seem to have gathered that it hasn't been for forever. That it's been fairly recent. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I collected records probably 8 or 10 years ago and got a couple hundred and was really enjoying it. And then kind of took a break. We had a farm. We sold our farm and moved, and my girls got older, and so I stopped it. And it's just been in the last couple of years that I've been getting back into it. Yeah.
Because that concept of collection is amazing, stupid, insane. Like it's all these things at the same time. And I'm just wondering, like it must be super fun. And it also allows you to let go of control a little bit. Like basically, oh, it's from 1974. I don't know it, so I'm gonna try it anyways. But like when you reach the point of like, I think I'm done with 1974. What are you gonna do?
Well, the one restriction I have for myself is I don't buy anything online. So all of those albums have come from Oregon here within a couple hundred miles of where I live. So, and I have a master list that's got at least a couple hundred more on it. So I'll be doing it for several years. I picture myself losing some, my interest waning a little bit. But what's been so awesome is it's been kind of learning this time capsule. And you can imagine with over 600 albums, there's so much music that I didn't even know of. Like I didn't know who Bebop Deluxe and a lot of people don't. You guys, I'm sure all do, but I discovered their first album, Axe Murderer or Axe Victim, excuse me, and it's fucking fantastic. And so I subsequently went out and got some more of their records, and 10cc. Now I have all of their records, and and then there's some obscure folk stuff and instrumental stuff that I didn't know about. So it's been a real it's forced me to learn about different kinds of music. Yeah.
I think Stunty's got a few more questions up his sleeve, so I'm just gonna go grab a glass of wine. No, I was just intervening so I could grab a glass of wine. Do you want to take over, Stunty?
Just me and Romuald, we've been in the past few months we've been discussing quite a lot. Bill Nelson, with the guy from Bebop Deluxe. His solo career after, like a very interesting guy who basically managed to release a lot of music completely outside of any commercial concern.
Right. Like he could have been more successful if he would have taken different paths, maybe.
He was doing a sort of kind of new wave that was also experimental music, ambient, and I think he did a lot of music for exhibitions and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But he had his own label, so he released it all, and he had money because of Bebop Deluxe. And all these records, they make no sense economically in a way, but like they exist and they're pretty good.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, but the trend in the 70s was to release a record every year. So you should have plenty of records to find in 1974.
Yeah, there's in fact several artists released 2 albums in per year back then. Kiss has got 2, Queen's got 2, Deep Purple has 2. Elton John released Yellow Brick Road, I think, not Yellow Brick, Caribou, and I think he had a Greatest Hits.
Have you found Roxy Music's Country Life yet?
Pardon me?
Have you found Country Life by Roxy Music?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great album. Yeah. I found that, I don't know, this summer sometime.
I got obsessed with that record. I have like a Canadian, UK, and US crossover.
Oh, really? Cool. Yeah. Great cover.
We're still in 1970.
some records were released from Bill Nelson in the early mid 80s. You can find for very very cheap, like this one, Chimera, or one of my favorite. Oops, this one. This is 1982.
Yeah.
Fantastic records.
Yeah, it's a like $5-10 record, but just because people don't know it.
Yeah.
I don't know it. What kind of music is it?
It's the guy from Deluxe.
Yeah. So that's pretty much new wave symphonic.
Neoclassical, not symphonic. Neoclassical.
What's the difference?
Well, symphonic would mean like an orchestra. Here it's very minimalistic. It's more like Philip Glass in a way. So yeah, it's minimalism. Post-punk minimalism, neoclassical, ambient, post-punk.
Should we? Do you guys want to go to 2025 and talk a little bit about like what our plans for in the new year?
Do you really want to talk about the vinyl tag?
No,
I'm joking.
I'm vinyl tag. I didn't say anything about. You just trying to wind me up. It worked though. It totally worked, didn't it? I was like, what the. My blood started to boil. Vinyl.
I'm working on a smug tag.
All right, run with it, Marty. Tell us.
Yeah, it's only for me. Nobody else can do it but me. But yeah, legitimately, I'm just with all the drama and this hubbub about, you know, who's allowed to do what and who has permission and the official this and the official that. I came up with like, I don't know, close to 20 prompts for a smug tag. So I think I'm gonna see if I can pull that off here in sometime in January, just for fun, just as a comedy bit.
So basically, you know, every stream you got to refer to it and let people know about it, and then that'll be it. You can't say anything else.
No, I mean you can do it, but it's just going to be kind of, you know what I'm saying, like taking myself a little too seriously, maybe, and just funny categories like you know, a record to break up a party, or a record worth turning into a popcorn bowl, you know, that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It might bomb totally. We'll see what happens.
All right, I'm going to try this again. So 2025, not of.
Sorry, guys.
No, with Stunty is trying to wind everyone up as usual. Final tag. 2025. All right. What are folks' plans? Is there anything going on New Year's Eve? Do people can go out anymore on New Year's Eve? Or?
Oh, Pinup is going to do a stream.
No, he canceled. He canceled.
He canceled? Okay.
Yeah, he canceled.
Oh, on New Year's Eve, you mean?
Yeah,
is that one of your pals on your the skids and the
skid the
American butt thing? Yeah.
It's a little guy, a French guy who's 20, who's got like pretty heavy, like he's got autism, and he has no idea about what questions are okay to ask or not. And it creates...
He's the young fellow. The young fellow who's always on your stream. Yeah. I know you're talking about it. Yeah.
It creates a wonderful chaos. And sometimes it also makes us think, like, in a genuine way, which is like quite interesting. The guy is obsessed with Boards of Canada, The Cure, and Gorillaz. And basically, the first time you will meet him, he will ask you, what's your favorite Boards of Canada record? Without even knowing who you are and where you're coming from.
And sometimes he shows up and he asks a question like, hey guys, what do you think of Paul Anka or I don't know, yeah, you know, Hank Williams, you know, a guy
last Sunday he was suddenly like, we were like 6 gentlemen on screen, and so why are the Beastie Boys good?
These are solid questions. You know, that's something to be said for neurodiversity, right?
Oh no, he asked, why do people like the Beastie Boys? Which is even more interesting.
That's true. Yeah.
Subtle difference. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And he's there every week. He shows up.
Probably almost yeah.
Paul, what's going on with you in January? Are you going to tell us about that new jazz center at the University of the Downtown? What's the latest update on that? Is anything happening in terms of programming?
Yeah, well, they haven't brought in a lot of touring acts. I think that they were, by the time it opened, I think that they were running up against the deadline in terms of getting the facility open, and they probably missed out on booking a lot of the things for the fall, at least. But they've been using it. They've been doing test runs of it with a lot of university groups. And I think I've heard that they might be having some touring acts in there, so we'll see about that.
Is it going to be part of the kind of venue circuit for the jazz festival in September?
Yeah, they actually that was one of the things that it opened the weekend of the jazz festival last year, and so there's actually two venues within the jazz facility. So there's a big concert hall. And then there's a smaller, more intimate kind of nightclub sort of setting. And they had, after the end of the main jazz festival shows, they had some things primarily in the nightclub part of that facility. So, I'm curious to see what they're able to bring in. They're probably at a little bit of a disadvantage in that they don't, they're not a bar, they don't have food or the other revenues
license
that other jazz clubs have, but we'll see.
Guys, I'm going to say goodbye real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, Paul. It's good hanging out with you. I'm going to unhook and go home for have some dinner. Take care, guys.
Take care, brother.
Happy holidays. Good to see you, Marty.
There's good stuff later.
He's actually lying about all this. He's actually a drug smuggler, and the cop just.
I know. I was going to bring that one up too, but I was waiting for you to do that. So
everything's legal in Oregon, so I don't know what he's.
So it's fine now. Well, when you're collecting 500, over 600, objects in a year, like what else?
Determination right there, and he's doing it all in stores.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of Elton John records with him, so that's actually.
Yeah, I think Sandy watches way too much American television, right? I'm not buying this French. What were you saying before?
way too much VC, American VC related content.
Well, that's obvious, isn't it? Just look at the guy, That's what happens when the VC starts to sink into your brain,
I guess I didn't even notice there was a tag. I kind of stopped watching the whole YouTube thing about 3 months ago.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Around the election, I just stopped all social media. I just
when you kind of started to get the sense that Trump was going to win, you mean?
Even before that,
or not even.
Yeah, even before that, the algorithms and stuff. We don't need to get into all that, but.
Hey, well, we're going to be the 51st state, I've heard.
Oh yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It'll be wild times, man. Wild times.
Yeah, where do you?
There's only so much they can do, though. We are. Yeah.
I'm sorry for Paul here, who's at a disadvantage with us there, but for me, it baffles me so much that so many Americans don't realize how America has been perceived since Trump outside of America, that they have no clue. They are honest about how they think that people look at America in a positive way.
Yeah, it's all the media is corporate controlled, and so people are in echo chambers now. It's.
I have no doubt what the perception is.
But you see, Paul, that's you have these people saying with a straight face that America is gonna get respected more now, again.
I haven't heard that. I don't think that's part of the Trump discourse, right? Maybe some of his followers, but the Trump discourse is kind of we don't really care. We're America first, right?
Greg, you were totally correct in your assessment of my U.S. television watching. I used to work in politics. I was a spin doctor, so I'm obsessed with politics, but not necessarily with politics, but the discourse and the fabrication of discourse and all that. So I agree totally with Jeff. Like we should stay away from all of that, unless you have a sociological interest in the thing. Then it's very interesting, even if it's very depressing.
Yeah.
There's been never anything like that ever of that magnitude of like such a large scale group phenomenon. Like that is like
our politics changed in the early 2000s, the 90s, when the Supreme Court said that money equals free speech, and
the
so
corporations were people,
and so basically, if you have a lot of money, you can donate as much as you want to a politician, and and there's no limits and no disclosure. They had a law in. It was a Feingold law that said, hey, limited the contribution and you had to disclose. As soon as that was overturned, it was over.
You guys in Northern America probably haven't heard the news, but do you know who Nicolas Sarkozy is?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Is he in jail yet, or is he still in jail?
Yeah, he's been sentenced to 3 years of jail, and he's going to have to do at least 1 or 2. And do you guys know why he's going to jail for?
Was it corruption?
Wasn't it some corruption, wasn't it?
No. Well, campaign overspending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it never happened.
That's what they're trying to bring up.
We just elected a guy
right?
who, you know.
Yeah. In France, the campaign for presidency, there's a cap of how much was it? 150 million euros. If you spend €1 more than that, normally the election should be void. The thing is that it takes so much time to prove it that now they can only put him in jail, and he was president.
Yeah, we have a similar law here, and it hasn't on a number of levels. I don't think they've ever criminalized it, although I think it is a criminal act to overspend in certain ways. But basically, they just use that to get people to resign. Right, so that happened with the city of Toronto, one of the city councillors. Well, so as long as it's effective, right?
The other
and it's a somewhat of a deterrent, whether or not you believe in deterrence.
The other thing you may not be aware of in Europe and Canada is, we have the Electoral College, which was, part of the Constitution. So what basically that means is the federal elections decided by basically 5 states. And I happen to, unfortunately or fortunately, live in one of those states. So it's crazy. I mean, so if you're in, say, Nebraska or Florida or Ohio, no money, no ads, no one's calling your phone, you get no mailing. But if you live in Michigan, Arizona, Pennsylvania, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, I was getting 20 texts a day.
20 texts a day.
We get stacks of mail in our mailbox, and it was always the same thing, but they would just send it every day.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it works. It really does work.
And the TV ads and the whole shebang.
It was all over
negative
YouTube.
advertising.
That's the reason I stopped watching YouTube. The algorithm was targeting me.
Isn't there 20 Mark Lastmans?
There's no money in Nebraska. Yeah, there's hardly any people there, but they call them flyover states.
All right, so the dogs are
getting to politics. I brought up 2025 and what are we doing? And then we went to politics.
Yeah, we went back.
I guess that's the question, right?
Everything is politics, and 25 is going to be a very political year.
No, you're right. When is the inauguration? It's the second, third week in January.
20th. Yeah,
it's funny how all the corporations are stepping up and giving them money for the inauguration, huh? That's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to be careful. That dude, he's got his list. He's got his receipts.
Yeah, he's got a list.
At this point, we have to hope that he's actually just a crook.
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? If it was just that.
He's I guarantee, like, this whole thing with Canada and Greenland and all that crap you're hearing is he's down at his country club and some rich guys over a couple drinks are putting stuff in his head. He's like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, and he just pops it out. I mean, he's a there's the people behind him you have to worry about, like any of them.
Yeah. Well, the dogs are reminding me that it's their dinner time, so I'm gonna have to duck out.
Good segue, Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
All right. Oh, very nice to meet you. I didn't know you before, but like Philny Block, spiritualized, like you're talking to my heart here.
Right on.
Hope to see you again.
Yeah,
bye. Take care.
Sure.
But yeah, like
so Rom, what are your plans then for January, February? Are you sticking around Montreal? What are you doing?
Nothing really exotic. I think when it comes to the purchases, record purchases, let's see. I'm still absorbing all the records I bought in Den Bosch.
How many did you buy?
35-ish. And YouTube wise, it's been pretty crazy this year. You know, with the new channel we launched with Stunty and myself. The other channel I started, the German speaking channel. So let's have a break. January won't be that crazy, I'm afraid. Sorry to.
Yeah. I hope to actually go to the US in hopefully in February, maybe even the end of January.
For what?
I want to go see one of my best friends in Miami, who I haven't seen in 20 years, and I thought I would be going after the election, and then I thought, oh shit, and I still have to go. Plus, he has something like 180 records that are mine there that I need to get.
Just get your visa now. See if you can get it through.
Yeah, really, I wouldn't leave.
But you're coming from Sweden. You should be okay. Northern Europe. I don't think he has any issues with Northern Europeans.
Actually, I got to get my French visa soon too. So that's not easy. They don't make it easy there in France. They're stunting.
But you're getting it for the university, right?
No, I'm getting it through my wife, right? Because she's a French citizen, so it's like a family kind of unification thingy.
You're not going there connected to your university at all?
No, I could, but the thing about this is that if I go this route through my family, then I can get and I forget the name of I think it's the equivalent of what the Americans call a green card, right? Like a multi-year resident card. Just because my father-in-law is getting old and
France, contrary to Germany, the law is it's like the US. If you're born in France, even if your parents are not French, you're French. But like the fact that you're married to someone French, you have to live there for it to matter. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. Like it can help.
Yeah. So what happens is I'll get a 1 year, a 1 year visa, and then when I'm there, then I can say I want to continue to live
There's
here.
a legal process,
and then I'll be able to apply for a multiple year.
The thing is that's a response in Canada. I think in 2015 they introduced these what we call the EVE in French, which is what French or European citizens they have to pay to go to Canada for tourism purposes. And so this is the response. Friends say, okay, now we have to pay if you want to travel to Canada, so Canadian will have to pay as well. So they introduced a sort of tourist program visa, but it's not.
Yeah,
I think it's
remember that.
It's not that hard to obtain. I think it's only a couple of questions, and you have to pay something online, and you're good to go.
Yeah. For 1 year, you can get up to 1 year, and it's not so tough. So, yeah, just a few things. And we're gonna rent out our house, but I need to figure out, speaking of records, what to do with all my records because I'm not gonna leave them here, right?
So wait, two things? Are you gonna in that visa you're getting? Does that allow you to work in France?
Yes. The first one, I'm not sure. The 1 year one, I'm not sure. I don't. Maybe not. I need to double check.
No,
although Probably not, right?
Probably not, but like we don't know everything. But and also, so you're renting the place you're at right now.
Yeah, we're gonna rent out our house, so we need to find someone to rent our house.
Okay.
Right? But I'm still being paid by the university here, so I don't need to work there. But it would be nice, right?
No, but you need. You will eventually probably come back to that house, but you need to empty it while you.
Correct. Yeah. So it's tricky, right? It's like, how much can you leave here in terms of your furniture?
How many records do you have right now?
I don't know. Didn't I send you my Discogs?
Well, yeah. I think you have like something. I think there was like something like 1,500 or something.
Yeah. I've kind of cataloged about 90% of what I have, and it's around that much. So I'm probably pushing more like 2,000 if I'd done a proper job.
And book-wise?
Book-wise, I'm okay. I'm okay because I take most of my overflow books and leave them in my office at the university. So it's not so bad, but it is still, it's enough that it's a lot of work, right? To kind of.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a negotiation. It's kind of, hey, you can come and rent our place, and what do you want to pay, and what do you want to put up with? You want to look at all my freaky media studies books?
Can I book your apartment as an Airbnb? So every weekend, I'm sure there will be enough.
Why don't you come? You can live in our basement, and you can manage the rest of the house. Can be an Airbnb, and you can manage it. We pay very well. We take care of our people really well here in Toronto.
Make sure everything is legal.
And what's more, you can play all my albums. I trust you.
Oh.
You don't like jazz, though, do you? You're a rock guy, right?
I do have a couple of them, but this is the big names. Everyone keeps talking about. I know nothing about jazz. I have probably 10 records, but the usual suspects.
So a bit like Stunty, then, right? Yeah.
No, not that level. I knew Two Branches, and Stunty knows the old forest, so nothing comparable.
Yeah. Anyway, definitely looking forward to it for sure. Yeah, get out of here for a while.
How long will you guys go to France?
About a year and a half, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, because I don't need to be back here until September of 2026.
Okay.
And we'll see. I'm going to be 60 in a couple of years, so I'm organizing my exit, right? So that's why those questions are good, right? Like, kind of where can you work, your visa, how much house do you need here? Do you want to be there for a while? You want to be here for a while? So it's all that kind of stuff.
Like French healthcare system, even if it's not as good as it used to be, it's still the best you can get in the Western world.
Yeah. And so all those things are on the table, right? But yeah, the records are kind of freaking me out, and trying to figure out what to do. I'm gonna have to box them all up and put them into storage, right?
Maybe you start like my best, and actually Christmas was the day of the year I probably got the least amount of records during the whole year.
Yeah,
because I got none. Unfortunately or fortunately, I think I got like in a few days after all the last packages arrived, probably got a close to like between 550 records and 600 records this year. But so that would be an average of almost two a day. On Christmas, I got this: The Moon and Serpent Bumper Book of Magic by Alan Moore, and his deceased pal.
What is that? Open it up.
So this is like see, okay, things to do on a rainy day, magic for the motionless. It's a history of occultism, magic, both in a fun and practical way. Basically, like the closest thing we got to magic is art, and
so
it's basically.
You're gonna rebrand and hypnotize people via YouTube and stuff like that?
Oh, I've been doing that for a long time already, but no, I thought that this might help you with your upcoming issue of what are you gonna do with all these media. Maybe you can.
Okay, I've got another idea. Have you ever heard about anyone leasing their entire collection to someone for a year and 6 months. Here, come on over. I've got 20 boxes. You can borrow my albums, or you can pay me $100 and play my albums for a year and a half. I've never heard of that, but it's kind of a cool idea, isn't it?
I mean,
people,
you know, Jeff.
I was going to say, it might be an opportunity for you to purge. Since you're going to box them up, what ones don't you haven't listened to? Sell them. Fund your trip.
You're off my Christmas card list now, Jeff. I think I still owe you an album. That's it. I'm not sending it now. Definitely not sending it.
But in reality, if you're only gone for a year and a half, that means that the person who's going to rent it, it's short term.
Yes.
But it's still like a big short term, so it's not enough so that you would buy furniture and etc. So it might be actually good. Some people might appreciate that they get a place that already has entertainment.
Okay, and, so you're going to you've had enough of Sweden because it's dark. You're gonna move down to Barcelona for a year and a half, and Greg is gonna move into your place. Are you gonna be okay with Greg playing your records?
I was talking about you. For me, there's no way.
Yeah, it's funny.
Santi, can I put this one on?
The thing for me, like, if we're being honest, like the main issue wouldn't be like people. Okay, so one time I did that. I lent my flat in Paris for a month and a half to a friend, and I trusted him, but I didn't trust his friends.
His friends who live in Miami now with 180.
No, he wasn't. No, but basically, I trusted him, even if he was a record collector, that he wouldn't steal my shit.
Yeah.
But I didn't trust his friends, so I told him no parties at my flat. And of course, he did a party where there was like 50 people that came in my 37 square meter flat, and of course, like, stuff had disappeared.
Yeah. And that's exactly the kind of things I'm thinking of. It's like, okay, well, bring in a couple, whatever, whoever can afford our place and their kid, and those guys go out for the night and their kid puts on my,
There's that, but there's also the fact that even if they're not interested, I mean, there's all these records that are worth like, quite a lot are worth like 15, 20, 30. And then one that looks exactly the same is worth 2,000. And
they're not going
to how much, like, it's as invisible when it's away, when it's gone, than the one that is worth 15. So how much time before you understand what's going on, etc. Like that. The only kind of nightmares I get, usually when I get nightmare, I wake up and oh, cool, a cool horror story, because if it's your mind, your subconscious that are building it, it's better than a Hollywood horror movie.
Yes.
But the only ones that I wake up from that I don't like is like, I'm going home and the door is open. I'm going home and there's a fire. I'm going home and
water's coming out of the ceiling. Yeah.
And Mazdi and Monsieur Vinil have a chat in your dining room.
And they're licking the vinyl. Your $1,000 LPs. All you hear is
It tastes shit as it sounds.
Fuck you, Stunty. How about this review? Let's get off this topic quickly.
After 1 year of eating maple syrup without brushing your teeth. Yeah.
What? How do we get there?
I don't know. When I went to Den Bosch, the record fair in the Netherlands this year, it's the first time that Romuald and I met in real life. And that guy, he brought me a present. Like, you want to have as little weight or dead weight, and he bought me like a fucking tin can of maple syrup.
The can of Sirop d'Érable.
Sirop d'Érable. I live in Montreal. What did you expect?
That's a very Canadian thing. It's and it's great because right, drum roll. You just you bring it. It's really heavy, and then you drop it on people. Be like,
Yeah.
hey,
Exactly.
here's a gift from Canada, and now I have all this space. My back doesn't hurt.
It even bleeds over the lakes to Michigan. The whole maple syrup thing.
But you're right. It's quite heavy. Yeah. It's like
you have to say thank you.
Yeah, like I really love I really love single malt scotch, but yeah, when I go see my parents and my mom always buys me a nice bottle of scotch. You know, it's so expensive in Canada and no selection here, but it's just kind of like, oh, where am I going to put
Come on,
that?
no selection here. It's not that bad. LCBO, it's not bad.
You guys tax everything in Canada, though. I mean,
yeah, but it pays for all
it's
of this.
wild. Like, you know, I mean, sometimes it'd be cheaper for me to drive something over the border to Windsor than to mail it to you. You know, it's
I don't know, Jeff. Like the
side or your side or.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a fallacy. It depends what kind of sector you're in.
And right? I worked with so many Canadians that lived in Windsor who would like buy their cars in Detroit, buy all their stuff in Detroit.
Yeah, that's all right.
It was interesting.
Just wait till when you need our water.
People dress like shit, go on Saturday to the mall, buy new clothes, and drive back home. Like, hey, no, mine.
But the one
have
thing
their oil changed in their car. Yeah. Fill up
Yes.
their tank to the very top.
What's the name of that? Those stomach drops for kids in Canada. You can't get it in the States for colicky kids. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember someone gifting me that when my daughter was born.
No, couldn't tell you. Nah. Yeah, no, it's
Tim Hortons coffee tastes better in Windsor than Detroit. It's the other unique.
Well, it's mellower. It's mellower here. I lived in the States for 12 years, and I moved back to Canada to Toronto, and I got off the plane, and honestly, I felt like this 20% of my anxiety just left my body.
Knows who Tim Horton really is either. That's what's kind of funny, other than it's a coffee shop. All right, I gotta take off, man.
You got to roll. Okay, Jeff, it was great seeing you. Let's talk in the new year. Yeah, I'll be in touch. I'm gonna have a look at the dates. I'm still only at about 80%, so I'm giving it another week to make sure I'm okay. And then I'm gonna look at the calendar.
Because I'll be back. So next year, I'm just gonna be pretty much just record shops only. It's kind of
the record fair near you. When is that? Mid-January?
Second or third weekend.
So sorry, is that the Lansing one or the Ann Arbor one?
It's Ann Arbor.
The Ann Arbor one.
The thing with it is it's for jazz. If you want to just concentrate on jazz, it's best for us to go around Detroit.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And then you can get lucky and hit some deals at a fair or a show as we call them, but Detroit, and then exchange your money for American money and have cash.
Yeah.
We'll get you hooked. All right.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Yeah.
Nice meeting you guys.
See you again, Jeff. Take care. All right. And then there were 3. So we're going to do Toronto versus Montreal.
I've been to Vancouver as well, and I did a record guide of Vancouver, so we can do 3 cities.
Oh.
I've actually also been to Toronto for record shopping quite a lot, but
Vancouver's no good anymore. Used to be good.
I think Vancouver, from my experience, was pretty disappointing indeed. Outside of, classic rock, some indie, but for jazz,
indie is good.
It was a little bit more left field. It was pretty crap. Whereas Toronto was amazing.
The prices in Toronto, and I would say it's probably the same as in Montreal. Ron, wouldn't you say the same? I think the prices are compared to New York City, London, Stockholm, Paris. They're half the prices of those cities from Montreal and Toronto. So when I look at the price, I was just looking at La Dame Blanche. You know that store on the left bank. La Dame Blanche in Paris on the left bank. They have a lot of stuff online. You look at the prices, and it's like those are in euros. That's what we pay in Canadian dollars.
But you know, the Madame Blanche has the a second, like the much bigger,
an archive.
Yeah,
around the corner. I walked in there by accident. Well, it wasn't by accident. I'm like, look at all those fucking LPs, and I walked in there, and the guy's like,
and the records are not priced there. So that gives them an excuse to say, oh, but it's not a shop, it's just a stock. But like that's how they can like basically put the price they want.
I figured that's where all the Discogs stuff was, but they have a very good collection. But
they had, it used to be amazing, that shop. Now they struggle to get new stuff in, new collections, because they're the guy who runs it, Regis, he's stingy.
He is. I go in there like three times a year. He still doesn't recognize me, and I go in with my horrible French, and you know, and we always have a chat, right? Because he comes and he greets you. You know him, right, Stunty? Like he's a fairly attentive kind of fellow, right? What are you looking for? Can I help you? Cha cha cha.
In the late 90s, like for the people who know, in Paris, most buildings have like, well, you have a door that gets you into a sort of very small inner court, and you have to have a code to the door. So the mailman gets it, and he had right beside the shop, in the little court there, he used to have boxes of records, the ones that he usually had outside.
Okay.
On the street that he
so
didn't.
Was it for the residents could go in and pick up some of his LPs?
Well, there was not that many residents, but one time I remember I went inside to avoid the rain, and I saw all these records, and like, shit. And it was, what the fun part was, that it was only library soundtracks, and back then these records were cheap. And I was already starting to, and I remember I took one, and I thought like, I don't know. And then I thought about it, and I thought like, man, like that was probably the best possible haul ever. But I didn't do it.
You know the place we're talking about, Rom?
No, I never been to Paris for record shopping.
For record shopping. And there used to be it used to be a place straight across. Remember, Stundy? It was the Crocodisc. They're jazz. Yeah. And then they closed down. And then there was a guy who got a lot of American, it was mostly jazz LPs, and he was there for a year and a half, and he was an asshole. He was such a prick. Didn't want, it was like, can I have a look at that LP there, please? You know, and I'm speaking in French too and everything, and my French isn't that bad. And it was just like, sorry, we're closing. It's like, what the fuck? And he lasted for a year and a half, but he had lots of original American Blue Notes and stuff like that. But so they're gone now, you know.
Romuald, he only went to Paris when he went to jail.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk about that now, or we'll talk about that on another stream?
I know the time. Like, it's fairly unpleasant. So like,
was this after one of those fun evenings that you kind of had a bit too much fun, or we can talk about it now? This is a safe space.
How many people are watching?
Oh, not just a couple of my friends.
Is this stream being recorded? Are we talking on
yeah, it is, but it's just, you know. Yeah. We're not getting the story.
He helped, like, he comes from Alsace, the northeast of France, and he was in the militia trying to win the independence of the region, and that didn't go well.
What a load of bollocks.
Well, if you know France, it's not unbelievable, though, huh, Romuald?
No, c'est sûr.
That you'd be arrested for your regional partisan activities?
No. Never did that.
No, but you see this beard, like, that's obviously
what's underneath.
Yeah, he's hiding something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
How long has he been in Montreal?
Quebec, yeah, exactly. Huh?
Why Quebec? It's quite anonymous there. Beard, you know.
But it's funny because I was watching your video about the Paris record stores right before this again, and there was one shop I didn't. Yeah. And there was one shop I didn't know because, as you said, it's fairly new. The one that you went to after Bettino, I think, a young shop. You say it's been around for 5 years or so.
Yeah, what's it called? They have a very good Instagram page.
Records or something like that. L something.
Listen records. Listen, yeah.
Oh, the one that you said looks or feels like an American store. But it's funny how someone who's not from the city and who's not been around the perception. For example, Bettino. You know, people go to Bettino for techno and house.
Yes.
And he had this guy working for him for the longest time. I don't know if he still does, who's from Brazil. So there was also that influx in the shop. And at one point, his shop was kind of isolated. It was a shop that he wasn't hip anymore. So it was only older DJs who were going there.
So how long ago would you say that is then?
That
he lost his cachet, he lost the hipness, like 10 years ago?
No, like 20 over 20 years ago. That he became like almost too classy. Like he was too selective, and he was selecting stuff he liked, which means that at one point, if you're a young kid, like you want your own stuff. You don't want to model yourself after someone who's already like in his late 40s.
So the Americans would call that, tell me if I'm wrong, like a curated store. So is that what you mean?
Yeah.
It is quite curated in a sense, right?
It wasn't super curated, but you know, it was like soulful, deep house, like black music orientated.
Yes. And you're right. There's a wall. One of the signature walls that he has on the left is almost exclusively, well, I shouldn't say exclusively, but there's a lot of Brazilian, I would say half of the stuff there. He's curating it with Brazilian reissues, right? So I could see that. The thing I loved about it, I probably said it, talked about this in the video, I uploaded that a while back, is that there's always one copy that's open.
Yeah.
So you can, and all the new stuff, so you can always pull it out and play it.
France,
always.
To be fair, in France, that's pretty normal. Like most stores in Paris, like if there's only one copy left, well, they will open it for you. Like it's especially because Paris had a lot of DJ record stores. And in the DJ record culture, record shop culture, like you have to be able to listen to everything in the shop.
Yeah.
Like there are listening stations that you don't have to ask anyone. You just grab the records and go there directly. No one is asking you anything. That is the culture.
And you can open it, you mean?
I mean, it's courtesy to ask.
Yeah.
But like the good shops, they understand that. Like, come on, if I'm in a shop and the record I want to listen to is sealed,
yeah.
Like,
well, they've never said no to me, even with one left. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I think it's a matter of they know that people are going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Why create a problem when they can avoid it by letting it happen? When, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter?
No, I don't. Well, I think it matters for good reasons, right? In the sense that you're going to be in there longer. Well, if you have the time, like maybe us, right? We're kind of collectors and geeks, but and I parcel out the time. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. Not around. This is my time. I'm going to book 3 hours and have a walk around, and so you can do that. You can pull out all the discs and listen to them, right? And so there's that, and then B, as a result of that, you're probably going to buy more stuff, I would say.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea. It's a cultural difference, though. I absolutely cannot see it happening in Toronto, at least. No, probably not.
I
think people are definitely, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think people, at least in that store and Bettino's and others, is that people are more respectful there. It's a small neighborhood store, and even though maybe it's not as hip as it used to be, there's a certain vibe there. And the owners comes and goes all the time, walking and going out for a coffee. He trusts people who comes through the store, right?
I guess it's all the shops that have a connection to DJ culture. So black music will be amongst that. Because when you went, it's funny because all these shops you went to, like I Jazz Corner, I know the guy, Arnaud, La Dame Blanche, it's Regis and Ben in the back store. Bettino, it's Bettino. Superfly, it's Manu. It's all people I knew. Sometimes I knew before they even started the record stores. And like obviously La Dame Blanche and Paris Jazz Corner won't have like listening stations.
No.
Because the music they carry don't have that culture, at least not in France. But anything that is techno, hip hop, soul, Brazilian, funk, disco, techno, if there's not a listening station, like it's part of the culture, and if you fight against it, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah, and I'm up in Montreal. The most of the stores have turntables in the record stores.
At least behind the counter, yeah. Not like a station like that you can actually put your record, have your headphone, but you can
so
easily
that's not
ask.
A thing in Montreal.
Not really.
Not so much. Really. I don't remember that either as much. Here, it's used to be before COVID. There used to be more of that, and then there was the you got to bring your own headphones, and then it just got a bit weird, and then people started yanking them out. Right?
Which store are you usually go to in Toronto?
Watch my video.
I will. Yeah.
Too many. I usually there's about 4 or 5 decent record stores down in Chinatown, and when pals come into town, or if just I've got a good friend a block away, and maybe once every 2 months we'll cut out early on a Friday afternoon and we'll just walk and do a circuit, and there's one really good kind of techno DJ store, one good one that has used, another one of the big large ones that's more like similar to that style, still good, but a little bit for everyone. So they're all different, right? It's nice. It's a nice and then there's a kind of a jazz only place that a lot of the visitors, the Americans, like to talk about. Whenever I talk to American visitors, yeah. Well, it's one of those.
The one that's run by the black guy, right?
No, he's Japanese guy.
Yeah, I know which one. It's on Queen Street, I think.
Yeah, they got a couple stores over there.
Oh, you're talking about Montreal, okay?
No, Toronto.
Yeah. No, Toronto.
What's the one I talked to you about, the jazz store that is run by a black guy?
In Montreal.
In Toronto.
No, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's we've talked about it. It's
jazz with a black guy.
No, you wait. Well, it's on there's a main street, and it's on a small perpendicular.
Yeah, you've got the right store. I never said the store name.
Yeah, what's the store name again?
Cosmos.
Yeah.
No, there's another one. Cosmos I went to as well. But Cosmos has a lot of jazz, but not just jazz. They have also some other stuff.
Oh, it's like 90% jazz in that one store.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was 8 years ago, so.
Rotate this. I really like.
Rotate this. That's great. They have the best prices there, and then there's the Sonic Boom downtown.
Spadina, yeah.
It's a little bit more on Spadina. Yeah, it's a little bit more. They got books. What did I call it? Kind of like more of a lifestyle kind of.
What's the one? Is it Rotate, the one that is kind of a little bit hipsterish? Fairly
on the edge of downtown,
big, but like deep. You can go
to the back.
And the entrance has a sort of weird it's not straight. If I like, there's
no, that's a rectangle. I'm not sure the one that you're talking about, Stunty. But I did notice that the Sonic Boom downtown, I used to not go there so much because there are a lot of new and reissues there and really poorly organized. But you go down to the basement and there's, they hire kids in there and they don't know what they're doing and they're just dropping stuff in there. So a lot of the stuff that is not in plastic, I go immediately to it to see what it is because I found stuff there for $10 and there's $80 albums, right? Because some kid is stoned, ate too many gummies and slid, this really nice, LP. So, but it's a dig. You got to dig. So you got to have time, right?
Yeah, you can spend hours in Sonic Booms. Yeah,
it's huge. Yeah, you've been there, right? So yeah, that's one of the 4 or 5 that I dropped by, but. So if I'm going down there, yeah, I'll probably buy about 5 albums every time I go on one of these walks down there. So I need to kind of pace myself, once every couple months, But so yeah, it's the more time I spend traveling around the world and checking out the record scene, Stockholm, like Stunty's right, like Stockholm is very good, I would say, especially for the size of the city. It's
what would as a Canadian or a guy living in North America, what would be for you your best experience in Europe?
In Europe, good question. Well, I would say Stockholm was near the top. Hamburg was really good. Berlin, but it's been a while for Berlin. Where else? I like Paris, but the prices are a little.
Stockholm is pretty affordable, I think.
Say again?
I find Stockholm pretty affordable, especially considering that the Swedish krona has been pretty low for.
Oh, has it? Yeah.
For quite a few years, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, not the UK. Definitely not the UK. The prices are. It's really hard to find stuff. I know where to go in the UK now, and you can find good stuff.
You simply have to avoid London, the greater London area.
There are places in London, but you got to go on the edge of London, and if you go, let me know, and I'll tell you where to go. It's so there's stuff to find, but I don't find it as interesting. I don't know. What do you think, Stunty? What else? Barcelona, Madrid. We're not very good. There's a very poor selection. I haven't dug around Italy. I'd like to go to Italy. I'm going to do that
not that many shops either.
In Italy?
The thing is that for London, there's quite a few shops, but it's way too competitive. Too many people looking for records. Like the offer doesn't match the
super competitive
the demand. So you have to be in very niche genres that would be connected culturally to the UK. So reggae, you can still find good stuff in the UK.
Yeah.
Obviously, like if you want to find Northern Soul, it will be in the UK. But
so that's what I was really disappointed with. Actually, was Manchester. The stores had I did find some stuff there, but they all had very small selections. I was really surprised. There were small shops and small selections. So I had a good time walking around, and I would. Manchester is an hour and a half away from where my parents live, and sometimes I fly in and out of there. So I really enjoy it there. The great bar scene, great music scene. But I was surprised that the record stores didn't kind of match the vibe of the city.
One thing that Paris is good for, that I think it might be the best city in Europe and maybe in the world for that, is not secondhand records. You have to live there.
Yeah, you got to know
where to go. New stuff, new releases, Paris is pretty amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because stuff is available. Like you can go to Gibert,
Fnac.
Yeah, Fnac, but Gibert, I think in Paris is really, really good. Like Gibert it's like 10 different specialized shops. Like the indie section is really good, the metal section is really good, hip hop, etc. But like if you go to London and if you go to the shops like Rough Trade,
HMV,
like the new stuff, if you're not there the week it's out or the next week it's gone. They most records, unless it's like very popular records, any indie alternative records, they will have maybe 5 copies in. And
no, you're right. And I think in not just in Paris, but I think all over France and in the regions, there will always be a really good bookstore, like an excellent bookstore, particularly for novels, but also sometimes near or attached to a university. So there's an academic section of books there, and there will always be a very good. So if you have that kind of bookstore, there will be very good new records. You're right, Stunty, not used ones, but they'll be excellent.
There's one thing that we have to thank France for, is when Mitterrand was elected, the French.
What was that for?
Well, because like
you wouldn't have done that if you were still living in Paris.
No, but so when the socialists won the presidency, Jacques Lang was the culture secretary.
Jacques Tong.
Jacques Lang, yeah. Quoi?
Jacques Tong, anyway.
So he passed a law that for like all the books have to have the price printed on the back cover.
Yes. Yep.
And bookstores can't sell the book for less or more. They have to sell it for that price. And the rest of the world had to adapt to it.
Yeah.
Which means that you couldn't get hustled by the bookstores, which we have forgotten now because it's become like 43 years now. So we have forgotten how it was before. Before that, like the bookstores could actually price the books, the new stuff, however they wanted. Now it's not the case anymore. Every single book. Some would price their books before, but there was no law that forced you to do that.
I wonder, there's also a law or a regulation, whatever you want to call it, around the La Poste, the post office. And there is there's a price only for if you are sending, i.e. exporting French print. Books. Well, print. But I wonder if that applies to vinyl too.
No, it doesn't. But so what you're talking about is a special tariff, a special price called tarif livre et brochure, books and print, which is basically was a way to help French language and culture. So if you're shipping from France to any other country, but not within France or not within a French territory, something printed in French, then it costs like $1 a kilo or something.
Yeah, it's like super cheap. Before we used to have my partner and I, we go around buy all our books and they'd be in our luggage. Going to heading back to Toronto. Now we just go to La Poste.
But I can tell you that there's quite a few French dealers that have managed to have a connection at their local post office that allows them to ship records. Because normally with that, when you go to the post office, you have to have your package still open. You have to seal it in front of the postman, because he has to be able to verify what you put inside of it.
Is that you're talking if it's an international shipment?
That EU only applies to international.
Yeah. Yes.
Because
true.
Like if you want to send a book in France to France, then you pay normal French shipping, which is not a lot, but which is way more than that price to ship it internationally.
Okay. All right.
The problem with that is you don't have tracking, insurance, and it's slow and unreliable. All the time I've shipped something like that to me, it finally arrived. But sometimes it was a nightmare because the one time it takes like 2 weeks. Well, you expect it to be like that all the time. And the next time it could be 2.5 months.
No, you're right. I remember now. We did always have a box and it'd be a disaster, right? Because we'd have like 40 books and you'd be walking in there with it all open, and they go through and look at each book to make sure that there wasn't an English or a German one, right? But so tell us about the so what's this deal that the vinyl record? This is what I need.
It's just that, like, obviously, like, as you experienced yourself, the clerk at the post office is the one who decides to verify if it's only French books or whatever, and also when he verifies, like, or to allow anything, like, basically it's a human person, like, his job is to seal it. When it's sealed, it's done. So if you're friends with the guy,
yeah. So your suggestion to me is, Greg, make friends with the postmaster.
The post office.
Yeah,
post office. Make friends and be friendly. Bring gifts.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring some gummies from Canada. A can of
maple syrup from Quebec.
Yes.
Quebec.
Don't be smug like Marty. Just be
friendly.
No smuggling. Like
no, but friendly doesn't work in France. Like, you have to be both friendly, and you have to acknowledge that you're asking him to do something not okay. So you have to, like, show him that you understand.
Okay, let's. Okay, oui, monsieur Stanti. Tu veux quoi? All right, go ahead. Now give me the friendly, but you're helping me out.
Yeah, no, but you just like web, or if you were like, oh, but this is not a book. Yes, it's true, but
no, I realize maybe you're doing me a favor.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like, I do ship a lot, and that helps me, and like, it's still like bridging culture, blah blah blah. Depending on, you have to gauge the person you have in front of you, of course. Wow, basically, you have to bullshit a little bit, but also be like, you're in on the, like, you have to make the person, like, flatter his ego. Oh, you're helping me. Like, every time I go there.
So Rom, am I getting set up here? Is Stunty setting me up? I'm gonna like try this now, and the postmaster is just gonna be like, "Get the fuck out of here!" You know, he's just setting me up, isn't it? Or is this how it really works in France?
Depending upon the person, yeah.
You have to find the right one, and I know dealers who have like it took them a lot of time to find the right post office where they found the right person, that they have to know what day that person is there, so that they don't take a chance, basically.
But are you saying that I'm going to take my albums there, and the fellow is going to kind of not fully let go when he puts the albums on the scale? Be like, oh no, this is only £1, Monsieur Greg. That'll be €5.
No, what I'm telling you is that, like, if you go on Discogs and you find a French seller, and you see that the shipping is $6 from France to Canada, then you know that that's how
they have a friend.
Yeah, and you know that also you're gonna have to be patient.
Because it's on the boat.
The way the person is going to communicate to you will be a little bit cryptic if you ask for details about the shipment. Because basically they will price the shipping at 6 when it will cost them, or like 7, 8, whatever. Basically, if they price the shipping for 1 LP at 7, there's no price at the French Postal Service that is that low, unless you do that. Which means that if they do that, well, they're making $5 on you, because
but they're not pocketing any money. So this person that I'm chatting up, okay, this employee at La Poste, in my experience, it's a pretty busy place, right? So what's in it for them except for my lovely smile and demeanor?
The two things: either you're the person that at Christmas you give them discreetly, like a
little gift,
a gift or something, or just they think it's cool what you're doing, and it flatters their ego to be part of the whole hustle.
I think we're gonna have to talk about this again. I'm gonna have to work on this a little bit more. No, have you tried this kind of coastal charm offensive in Stockholm as well, or is this purely a French thing that you're?
No, it doesn't exist in Sweden. That
no, because there are rules.
No, it's not that. Like this, as you explained, this is this thing that exists in France to spread French language and culture. No way Sweden would have something like that. Like Sweden doesn't have the ego of France. Like,
okay. So what you're saying is, so here's the legit box of all these French books, and I know there's un prix superbe, and then I've got a little box over here. Can I get the special price as well for this, and then kind of act? You'd be doing me a favor.
Yeah,
I'm asking too many questions now.
Yeah, but like
you have to try. Next,
you might as well try. Agreed.
1 year and a half. You will be fully time to try several offices with several clerks.
This is true. I got to try out different tactics, right, and on different staff there, and
the people who work at the post office usually hate their job because they have to deal with people who have issues with the public.
Yeah.
Often they're not necessarily, I mean, they are civil servants, but their company has been semi-privatized, so they are understaffed, heavily understaffed. So they don't love their job, most of them. So they don't care. So sometimes you will just find someone who doesn't care.
Yes.
Basically, I remember sometimes I would come with my a record I was sending to someone, and I had already sealed the package, and I wrote the content was printed music.
Okay. Now we're getting some advice here. All right.
So I was not totally lying about it.
Printed music.
But I know that like it doesn't specify vinyl records in the list of stuff that is allowed in that specific. And I also counted on the fact that the post office person wouldn't care.
True.
Wouldn't be bothered.
But in this scenario, I get this scenario like I see what you're saying. You were sending it to a friend, but who am I sending the record to when I'm over there? In this scenario,
maybe to yourself when you before you head back.
That would be a big package. I also have another, 100 LPs in France too.
There you go. Maybe you want to. Maybe you start to.
I have an unhealthy lifestyle in Canada and in France, Stunty.
Okay. I mean, we figured that some time ago already, Greg. No, but like, okay. So when I've won. I don't know if you've already gone through that phase, but I guess most people who are into records at one point or another, they start to buy records to finance other purchases. Because the more knowledge you acquire, the more opportunity you see in front of you sometimes. When I was in Den Bosch, like with Romuald, like I saw that Paul Weller record I know can go from between 80 to 120 euros, and I saw it for $5.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying it for myself. I'm just picking it up, and eventually, when I need some money, if it's super emergency, I will sell it at the store. If I have some time, I will sell it online, and then that's when you start to figure out how much you can maximize your profit. How much fees can you escape? How many
friends you have? Yeah, all true. Yeah.
No, but for example, like nowadays, when I buy something on Discogs, if the total price is more than, including shipping, is more than $30, I will almost every single time contact the person privately and ask them, can I make you a private offer for the record with my email, so that I don't write it down, but that they understand that, okay, we're escaping the Discogs fee.
Have the prices gone up within the EU to ship around? Because the prices I was getting quoted from some stores in Germany to ship to France were like 16 euros. 16, 18 euros, which I thought was
prices go up every January.
Nutty. Oh, so hey Marty, so you're saying that the prices are just that's just normal. It's gone back up every year. They're going to go up.
Yeah, every year usually they tell you, oh, buy your stamps before.
Yeah.
Before the increase, yeah.
Yeah. But I don't think Marty, we're talking about like price of shipping things, and Stunty was telling me how to make friends in the post office. But I don't know if Americans know like how lucky they are about how much it's so cheap, to ship things.
Is it
like
really?
Yeah, like what is it now? $7 to like if you shipped. If I was in Detroit, it would cost like what to send me an LP? Like $7, isn't it?
No.
I guess that's
$4.50. The official price is still $4.50 for Media Mail, which still has tracking, and if you use refurbished packaging, it literally costs you $4.50.
Are you talking within the from one place in the United States to another place?
U.S. Post, right? The U.S. Postal Service.
Media Mail.
For us, it would be in U.S. dollars about 20 U.S. dollars.
Conversely, it was they had the postal strike in Canada this last month or whatever. So I went. I sent 5 LPs, which is not. I mean, I didn't think it was like £5 or whatever to Rachel and Sue, and it cost $47 on FedEx. That was FedEx.
Oh, FedEx is worse.
Yeah.
Never use FedEx because in most countries, what they do is when there's some tax or VAT and handling fees, they deliver you the package, and 2 weeks later you get a letter from them telling you owe us that much. And by the way, each 5 days you have a penalty.
For custom fees?
Well, it turns out that the FedEx was actually cheaper than the U.S. Postal Service using the USPS, and it got there in like 4 days, which is really wild. Now they're only 400 miles from me, so it's not very far, but I was really surprised and pleased that it went so well. So.
But
I mean, it's not cheap.
Don't make any more Canadian friends. Yeah, in VC, you can make lots of Canadian friends, but you can't be too nice to them.
But if you send a package from yours, you're in Oregon.
Yeah.
If you send a package to Miami, so the most extreme distance, it will cost up to 20 or 20 pounds. I think it costs you $4.50.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean,
that's crazy.
Very thankful for that.
In Europe, if I send a package from Sweden to Denmark, the closest, so basically the next state, well, it will still cost me almost like $18.
Wow.
One of the first jobs I ever had was working for my dad, and he had a small computer company at the time. This is in Vancouver, so you might know some of the towns I'm talking about here, Marty.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a software computer. I'm just thinking now. So it was only small packages. I got into the family car and I drove down from Vancouver to the Washington border to Blaine, I think is the border.
Yeah,
town.
Sure. I know that town.
It's north of Bellingham, right?
Yeah, right up there.
And that would be my job. I would drive down. It would be about an hour across. I can't even remember what I said to the folks there on the border, and then I went straight to the U.S. Post, mailed the sample, software, whatever my dad was flogging at the time, and then drove back to Vancouver.
That's something.
So, and so a lot of people, I know a lot of people have like Paul before or Jeff, and they're just across the border, right? I went down and gave a lecture at the University of Windsor. And it's literally you can take a bus and it's 5 minutes and you're in Detroit. And so a lot of people in Windsor have mailboxes, right? It's the same Niagara Falls and Buffalo. Not sure if people do that over in Quebec, down in what would it be, Vermont or something?
Vermont, or the northern part of New York, Plattsburgh, yeah.
Yeah, Plattsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just have things shipped there, and then they go and they pick them up, after a while. So, I've thought about that. I keep on checking over and over. Is it going to be worthwhile? But
you know when I started,
sorry, was it Marty? Were you talking about, or no? It was Jeff was talking about how he doesn't really order things online, and I don't order a lot of things online either. So
yeah, I do a little bit, but I try not to as much.
Yeah. Sorry, Stinky, what were you going to say?
When I started to buy records internationally, that was eBay in '98, and like why buy records internationally? Well, to find stuff that you can't expect to find locally, whatever that may be. And back then, I remember like the shipping costs, you didn't even think about it. It was so marginal that I don't even remember how much it was, because like it was so little that you didn't even think about it. And the postal service in France was so reliable, like nothing got ever lost. And then most of it started to get privatized and starting to go to shit. And now I would say that maybe a third of my record collecting concerns are related to shipping costs, shipping reliability. So that's why I create all these networks of people to help me centralize. Like I have friends in the US, in the UK.
So you give them LPs and you say, when you get there, like what I was doing, when you get there, can you put these in the mail for me? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, like when you get enough, like ship them to me all at once and write on it that you're shipping it as a gift, and like just to avoid taxes or to try to, but also to only pay. And so for me, like paying $5-6 of shipping in the US for one record doesn't matter to me, because if I do it for 20 records, in the end, you would say, well, it's $120, but I still win.
Yeah. See, I'm just going to start, buying stuff and sending it to Marty, and then I'll be like, Marty, have I hit 25 yet? And
there you go.
When I hit 25, just put it in the package.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I might do that with my Detroit pals, because I go down there,
At one point, you have to be clever, because like
shipping costs are nuts.
Yeah, when you're at the point of the records you want, you can't be content with what you find locally. Then it starts to be very costly, and you have to be smart about it, to be ingenious at least.
Yeah. So Marty, what's going on for New Year's? You got any New Year's plans, or?
Not. I'm hoping to do some. I think we're right. This is right the time where we're not trucking quite as much, so I'm going to have some time off. I found out earlier today that I don't have to go to work tomorrow. I'm just going to do some online school to get my hazardous material certification. So tomorrow, so I can
like an online class,
so I can sleep in tomorrow, which is really nice, and then have the weekend. But I'm hoping to get into some local record shops. Maybe go to Portland. I don't know. I mentioned in the comments.
How far is Portland from you?
It's about an hour from me.
Oh, okay, that's cool. That's not too.
And it's not right now. It's not motorcycle season, and I really like to go on my motorcycle. So I'm a little bit more troubled to go in the car or the minivan. It's fun, but I absolutely love taking the motorcycle to record shops and when the weather's good and stuff like that. That's one of my most favorite things to do. So yeah, just relaxing, seeing my daughters that are around while I can, and adding to the 74. I haven't met nobody and I've run into several record store owners who are like, I've never heard of anybody that collects just 1 year, which I thought was a little bit interesting. I thought somebody would do that, but I guess not. It is kind of weird. I mean, I do have, hundreds of records that are not hundreds, but a few hundred that I'll probably never listen to again.
But hey, but listen, like 1974, imagine if you were 1988 or 1989.
Yeah, completely different.
So I don't want to talk too much about films and stuff, but I did do a film about a student festival that was held in 1989, and I thought, okay, what am I going to do for the music? And I started to do research on what the big hits were. You know, all the hit parades of 1989. That was a god awful year. Oh my, you know, it's like Milli Vanilli and like just
Vanilla
the
Ice.
worst. I can see Stenty's already looking, right? He's googling like what are the top.
You have the
Madonna. Well, no, you went to the good place.
The top 40 stuff wasn't.
Marty, like sticking the zeitgeist. We're talking the zeitgeist.
1989.
UB40. No, I think it's even a bit too late.
You know
for
what
that.
was really good though? I think this is more like 91. One of my most favorite albums is Extreme. 3 sides to every story. You know, of course, Extreme came out. Their big hits were More Than Words and Wholehearted, kind of soft ballads. They're not a metal band. Stunty, do you know them? Extreme?
Yeah.
I love the way you say that.
I remember it was like this, like vanilla metal.
Don't
vanilla metal.
Oh, come on, I remember. Like, I'm a little younger than you, but just by 3 years. So So I remember, like, it was like there, like it was like 1990, right?
Yeah, 1990. Yeah.
And I was like the metal ballads. That's basically
it's some hair metal. It's like on the outskirts of hair metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was 1990.
But if you get the gumption or you remember it all, stream 3 sides to every story. And I think it's 92, 93, something like that. And it's kind of a rock opera, and I don't know, it affected my life and it was brilliant. And the LP for it, I think, is like $100 to find it, because that's in that spot where they weren't pressing a whole lot of
CD
stuff.
years.
Yeah. But it's fantastic. At any rate, 89 would have been a crap
89
year for music.
Go Stenty. Have you got the hit parade for 1989?
No, but I'll just check.
Okay, so while Stenty's looking, here's another thing. So I was watching one of these kind of bad spy films that, of course, the spies are always female now, right? And what was it with Charlize? What's her name?
Theron.
And do you know the one I'm referring to? Anyway, and there was a lot of forward music in it, a lot of pop music in it. And it was set in 1989, and she's running around East Berlin. So it's the fall of the cell, right? So it's on point, 1989, totally relating to the theme and the time of the film that I was making. And but the issue is, and it has all this great music, and I thought, what? I must have missed all this great music, and I started Googling it all, and it was all from like the early 80s. It was not 1989 music at all. It's 1989 music.
Interesting.
Really, really bad.
So I see I have I have 240 records from 1989. But when I look at it quickly, most of it is techno and house.
Are you looking at your Discogs, Stunty?
Yeah. And then there's Sonic Youth, the Spaceman Free, more techno.
When was I think wasn't Bobby McFerrin's "Don't Worry, Be Happy" right then?
Exhibit A.
Yeah,
it was really the heyday of Madonna. It really was.
You know what? I was living in Manitoba, Greg.
Oh yeah,
at that time, yeah,
late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, up at north of Winnipeg, up in Pine Falls. Yeah, right on the river, right on the Winnipeg River.
Yeah,
good times.
Not so. Those are 74 is considerably better than 1989.
I agree.
even if Stunty like his
but Greg, interestingly, since your concern came with movies, 1989, a very important soundtrack came out. Not that it had like a huge effect commercial.
I wonder if I could. Can you give us a hint? Give a hint. See if we
can. It's for the first movie of one of the most celebrated directors of the past 35 years.
Tarantino?
No,
Nope.
that's too early. That's before Tarantino, right?
No, Tarantino is actually 88 or 89,
really?
the very first one.
From
I
Dusk
think
to Dawn, or
Reservoir Dogs is 89, I think, or 9. Yeah,
okay.
but no, it's someone who has done a shitload of movies in all styles, and I can give you more hints. So it's his first movie, like award-winning movie. First soundtrack by he hired a guy who was a musician. First movie soundtrack this guy did. This guy was part of one of the most popular bands of the 90s, even if the band started in the 80s. But like literally one of the top 10 bands of the 90s. But he had quit the band by that time. And
wow, man.
award-winning. So Greg,
I'm not playing your game, Stunty.
I'm intrigued.
I'm ordering dinner for my kids.
Just give us another hint and tell maybe
So
what's the genre of the movie?
I have no idea.
I can tell you which award it won. It won the Golden Palm in Cannes.
Oh,
so that's one of the biggest prizes.
Is it a Canadian movie?
No.
No.
It's an American movie.
How about maybe it would be too much if you gave just the actor or the actress that was.
Not.
Is it Wim Wenders?
Out of Africa.
First movie. Wim Wenders started in 81.
Out of Africa.
No. Out of Africa is actually.
It's not P.T. Anderson. You're not talking about P.T. Anderson, are you?
No. It's.
We're nowhere near. We're not even getting close.
There's an aspect of that movie that was revolutionary, and that the
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
The medium that we're currently conversing or exchanging through is related to that.
Is it a Scanner Darkly? No, that's not it.
I'm going through Wikipedia now.
That came later.
I'm going through Wikipedia.
So the band that this guy who did the music was part of was a sort of funk metal skate band. And now he's one of the most celebrated soundtrack composers. And that soundtrack is amazing, by the way.
It's not like Repo Man, is it?
No.
I have that one. That's a great LP and a great film.
But the soundtrack of Repo Man is a compilation of tracks, though.
Okay. And 89.
Do the Right Thing by Spike Lee?
No.
Was that a bit earlier in 89? I can't.
No, it's literally his very first movie, and he wins the Golden Palm. So if you Google who won the Golden Palm with their first movie,
but he's an American.
He's American, yeah. And his first name is the same first name as the most famous movie director of the past 50 years.
Steven?
Yeah.
Soderbergh.
Yeah.
Oh, is it
Sex, Lies, and Videotape?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And the guy who did the soundtrack is Cliff Martinez, who was the very last drummer of the Captain Beefheart Magic Band and the very first drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
And when he quit, he was kind of depressed, and I don't know exactly how. I interviewed him once, but like we didn't tackle that. But like basically Steven Soderbergh offered him do the soundtrack to me, and he did like an ambient soundtrack, electronic, which was not that usual back then, and he did it in a very honest way, not cheesy synthesizers. It's like really good sounds, like good synthesis, and now he did the soundtrack to the Drive movie, but before that he did Solaris.
Oh yeah, that was excellent. Yeah, I love the soundtrack to Drive.
Solaris is for me the best soundtrack for any movie of the past 30 years.
So what was the music like for Sex, Lies, and Videotape? I remember the film very well.
Is that
I don't remember the music. I don't remember the music at all.
It's very ambient, very atmospheric, harmonies, but no attacks, no percussions,
and so to come back to my original point, was that the zeitgeist musically of 1989, Santi?
No, the zeitgeist of 1989 was obviously house, acid house. Acid house was what was popular and new in music, not something from that was the continuation. I mean, it really started in '88, the Summer of Love in Europe, as we call it. But '89 is when it got mainstream. It's I think the first few singles by KLF came out.
Oh, I had that in high school.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that totally jars my memory. KLF is gonna rock you.
What time is love?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, I haven't heard that for a long time.
You know, that album that came out in 1990, like 10 years ago, it was a $1 bin record. Now it's 150
no
euro.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I went to a boarding school in, it would have been 1990, and I remember spinning that CD, the KLF CD, going between our dorm rooms all around, and we're spinning it all over the place. That's wild. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Flash from the past.
Totally. Well, you were 16, so of course you would. That must be like iron, hot iron.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just ordering some pizza for the natives here. The restless natives.
You know, it's interesting because that album was probably the first mainstream techno. The first time mainstream audience were exposed to techno, and it hasn't aged that bad actually. And the guys who did it, who are behind it, they were part of like post-punk bands from Liverpool since the late 70s, and the whole thing was an art project for them. It was like almost cynical. Like when with that album they won the Brit Award, like basically the Grammy Award in Britain for the best new band. And so it's a ceremony, so there was a show and they went on stage. They threw the carcass of a lamb in the audience and started to shoot at the audience with blanks from M16 machine guns without telling them it was. And they declared that they were just, oh, you're the best new band, we quit.
Was this 1974 or 1989?
And then they took 1 million quid in cash and burned it as like an art gesture, which they regretted since then. But
yeah, for sure.
Because the whole thing
as
was
you do, right?
No, but like the project was like, let's see if we can make 1 million quid out of the movie we're gonna do the documentary out of, burning 1 million.
Yeah,
which they eventually did, but they could have
that was the investment, that was the budget built into the budget. Holy smokes. Well, Marty is he's scoring the soundtrack for the film, right? For my film.
Oh, have you found anything else to use, Greg?
I haven't yet, but I need to start thinking about that. I actually got a call the other day. Sorry, I'm just inputting my address here for the pizza. Multitasking. Because like a guy who's been kind of helping me out, kind of acting as a producer. I need to ask if he really wants to be the producer. I think he'll probably edit the film. He's really encouraging me to do a pitch at the Hot Dogs Festival in Toronto. So I'll need to get my. It's
the
like
Hot Dogs.
Hot Dogs. It's one of the.
Hot Dogs.
It's like the top 5
dogs.
International.
Okay.
Well, maybe that's where the film will screen at the Hot Dogs
Festival. Are you putting together a like a trailer now?
Yeah, I'll need to put in a trailer, and that's when I'll need to find some initial music to lay it down, right? So that's going to happen pretty soon, probably first, second week in the new year, I think. Yeah.
There's another great soundtrack from 1989, the Batman soundtrack.
Oh, the original. That's the first one.
Prince.
Yeah.
What was the song? What was the main song?
It sounds amazing. It has aged so well. Like the first track is a house track, a very sophisticated house track. It wasn't sold as such back then, but when you listen to it now, like it's, if they weren't singing Batman in the lyrics, you would just think this is
awesome.
Amazing kind of Stevie Wonder Prince house track. Futuristic. And I was thinking, like, didn't like D-Light also released in 89, but no, that was 1990.
Was it?
I thought it was a year before, actually.
What's the
That's a great one to put on for a party.
Yeah,
everyone goes on the dance floor for D-Light.
Yeah, I think that the video was as a church boy growing up, the video was kind of very sexy.
The D-Light one,
right, Marty?
Yeah.
Too much gyrating.
Yeah.
Lady, what was her name? Lady something.
Yeah. She was kind of squatting and get up a little bit on the. Yeah. Also, Madonna's and Vogue was a really mind blower. That was right around that time too, I think, wasn't it?
Vogue, yes, I think it came a little later, but you might be right.
Yeah.
No, Vogue, it was around that time. Yeah, 89, 90.
I'm gonna don't remember. I was born in 86. Sorry.
86. The New York Mets won the World Series, beat the Boston Red Sox.
86 was the year I graduated from high school.
No, 86 is the year everyone started. Everyone serious started to collect vinyl.
I'm sure you tell me. Yeah.
Basically, the sort of the Mazzy of the French VC. He's just written his second book about vinyl records, and
the Bible. He wrote the Bible.
Yeah. And he's this guy who's acting all omniscient and like he's a bit much, but so basically he bases a lot of his authority on the scene by the fact that he's starting to collect records a long time in 1986, like almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is that it took a while before anyone figured out, well, us, that, well, when were you born? And, well, he was born in 1980. Do you think really it's, like, how would you feel about, like, saying, oh, yeah, I've been a collector since I was 6 years old?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Well, Marty's got it even better than that. I've been a collector ever since day one, right, Marty?
Yeah.
Since 1974.
That's right. Yeah.
He stopped collecting when he was 2. He was like,
I can show you something here, guys. Let's see here.
All right, pull them out here.
Would you guys buy this argument? This
Whack-a-mole, 1974.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'll put this down just a second here. So I can find.
Are there fish on your ceiling there, Marty?
Okay. Get this. So when I was growing up, my dad sang in a Southern gospel. Sunday, I don't know if you guys know. I grew up Mennonite. Like
no, I didn't know. I heard that
related to Amish, kind of until I was like 10, and then grew up in the church, played in the church band, and did whatever. But my dad was in a Southern gospel quartet that was pretty popular here in the Willamette Valley in Oregon. Anyway, and I think this is from, I don't know, the mid 80s. This is an album here, and it's got my dad on the cover, but on the back, there's a picture. Let's see if I can get it. I'm right there.
Make him big. Greg.
Yeah.
Sorry. I was like, whoa.
Are you a little kid like down there? Like
that's
sorry.
Let's see if I can.
No, almost.
No. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. Holy shit. I can't believe I'm so bad at this.
Just double click on the little square on Marty's screen under the big screen.
Oh God, man,
it's all good. You don't have to do, it anyway. So I'm at.
Why am I so bad at this?
That's me, like at 10 years old.
Was your dad part of the Bee Gees?
The Bee Gees. Yeah. So this is the Good Shepherd's Quartet. It's a Southern gospel, which is like, if you don't know Southern gospel, it's real heavy on the harmonies, not barbershop, but kind of a little bit of a country feel, but yet gospel anyway. And when I grew up, my dad and the crew toured all over Western Oregon here and into Washington and whatnot, and they would get the families of the quartet to come up and sing a few songs. And so that was and then my dad actually sang in a couple of other Southern gospel quartets that have kind of toured the United States and stuff like that. So that's my
did you go on the road with them, or
no. I mean, this was a weekend kind of a thing, so we were never farther than an overnight stay away it was a Northwest kind of a thing. Yeah. So the Southern gospel is kind of something that was really popular down in the Southwest, in Tennessee and Kentucky, and then all in the Southwest. So there wasn't a whole lot up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Wait, so Southwest, Kentucky, in Tennessee, if I have my geography right, it's more on the east than on the west.
I'm sorry, you're right, Sonny. I meant southeast. I didn't mean southwest. I meant southeast. Yeah, they're part of it. So Southern gospel is a genre that is basically kind of in the southeast. So it would be Louisiana, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, and the Carolinas and stuff like that. So there wasn't a whole lot up here in the Northwest. So there was the group my dad was in, called the Good Shepherd's Quartet. Christ is considered the Good Shepherd, right? And then there was another group with 6 brothers called the Knox Brothers that they did concerts with all around the Northwest, and so it was kind of a thing that I grew up with here, and anyway.
So rock music in the 70s. So when your dad's in this in this band, like what was the status of rock music in the religious community that you grew up in?
Non-existent. So
it's just like,
well, because in 74 rock music is like, it's David Bowie, Led Zeppelin.
Right.
So, no.
Yeah. So my dad would have, at that time, he would have been listening to Peter, Paul and Mary, the Letterman, Glenn Campbell, John Denver, mostly folk music. Yeah. And then it would have got, in the late 70s, it would have got into stuff like Love Song and Larry Norman, that kind of stuff.
How about like any civil rights related folk? Or is
because I mean, a little bit. They were kind of on the fringes of the Jesus movement. So they were really kind of, they went to my parents met at the same boarding school for high school that I went to, and that was kind of the thing to do. All my cousins went to the same boarding school, and they kind of met, and you're really kind of segregated away from the whole. I mean, I didn't know about the Beatles. I didn't listen to the Beatles until like 1993, 94.
Wow.
We were all just kind of cloistered in that. I used to go to a Christian music festival every year where we listened to Petra and Whiteheart and Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith and just really kind of just this one community right in there. And so then
no one pulled you aside and whatever
football game. No, because all my friends were in the church, and you just go every weekend and you listen to the latest.
You went to what kind of school did you go to then?
So I went to it's basically, I went to some public schools when I was younger, but then a private Christian schools.
So as soon as you hit puberty, out of public school.
So my freshman, 14 and 15 years old, we lived in Canada, in Manitoba. and my dad taught school at a small Christian school. And then we moved back to Oregon because that was just a 2-year kind of a missions kind of a thing. We moved back to Oregon, and then I went to the boarding school, which was a Mennonite school, right? So Mennonites broke off from the Amish broke off from the Mennonites, I don't know, 150 years ago or whatever, but it's that real conservative kind of they're nonconformists, pacifists. They don't get involved with mainstream pop culture in the slightest. So when I was 16 and 17, then I was exposed to, that's when CDs like 90, 91 CDs first came out, and I got on CD Club, and I got Eric Clapton's greatest hits and Moody Blues greatest hits, and Yes, Union was one of my first CDs, which is hated by a ton of people, but it had a huge effect on me.
Wait, you said that one of your first CD was Cocaine by Eric Clapton?
Yeah, it was Timepieces, which had coke. I think it was cocaine on it and whatever. We just kind of laughed about it. We didn't really know much about it, but it had I Shot the Sheriff, and a bunch of those others. But the Moody Blues was a big influence on me in 1991, and then I graduated in 92 from school, and then I found Paul McCartney his Off the Ground CD had a huge effect on me, and then just then discovered the Beatles, and then left the church. I met my wife. I was 13 and she was 11. We went to church together. So we didn't start dating until we were older, but then I got married at 22 and she was 19, and then we realized that the church was, not 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 what we were raised to think it was, and all that, and we left, and haven't, but that's all my background. So since then I discovered all of the music that I enjoy and love now didn't come until I was 20 years old, basically, or right around that
when
time.
did you discover extreme?
That I was 17 when I discovered extreme. So I was just getting into that, and it was kind of taboo. We weren't really supposed to like that so much, but I had a cassette deck. I had a 1965 Dodge Dart car, and I had an Alpine cassette deck in the glove box because people were stealing cassette decks at the times at that time out of cars. So I had a glove box, and it had auto reverse. Right, you didn't have to eject the cassette to turn it over to the other side.
That. Yeah.
But I had a single of More Than Words. You guys know that song, More Than Words? Yeah, of course.
It's a ballad.
And it is. It's amazing. And I played that over and over again until the magnetic tape started to, get warbled and whatnot.
Oh, that's when the songs started to get interesting. Okay.
Right. So, so that was kind of the end of the cassette era, because I had lots of Christian music, lots of Petra. I could name 20 Christian bands that I grew up with. But then I realized that there was something outside of that. I got Simon and Garfunkel CDs, and then some more hard rock stuff, and then my world kind of opened up, and then I kind of realized that go ahead.
Because it's the same time. How about like the more, existentialist type of music, rock, like Nirvana and all the stuff that is talking about like darker stuff?
My friends were into Nirvana, but I didn't really. That was like my senior year when Nevermind came out, I think, or junior year, like 16, 17, and I didn't really grasp and Pearl Jam came out and whatever. I didn't really grasp the importance or this. I liked more melodic music, and that was just kind of a rebellion against that kind of music. So I didn't start enjoying Nirvana until after after Kurt Cobain was gone. And Soundgarden was really good. I like Soundgarden.
For someone who I grew up in a home where, like, if we were invited to a wedding, we would stay outside. We would wait till the church office was. We wouldn't, like, my parents wouldn't have us enter a church. That would be like the worst thing possible.
Really?
And so for me, the whole, and it's not about like being against spirituality or that. No, it's about the whole vertical authority system.
The institution, you mean?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The fact that it's full of power and the submission and oppression, basically.
Yeah.
And really, the 80s, the whole metal thing, I was unfortunately or fortunate because of that culture that I got from my parents, like I understood by myself that was it. It was the guys who wanted to be the rebels, but who also wanted to be the most popular ones. So basically, it was a power fantasy thing. It was something that had an inherent paradox or contradiction, and that was tacky. So for me, from that perspective of like, this is bullshit, when stuff like Nirvana came, that was a liberation. Like, oh shit, like now we can be ourselves. We don't need to pretend anymore. We don't need to have makeup and like look tough and all that. Like we can just be ourselves.
And I remember being on the outside looking in at that, and my friends got it. They were in on it. They could see it, but I didn't quite then until I was more like 18 and 19, and I was just like, oh, it was more of a realization at that time. Like, and I was starting to see all of the heresy and the hypocrisy in the church, so to speak. And but see, I grew up playing in the church music band and being part of leadership and stuff like that. So I was the one telling my friends, you need to, get your act together and whatever. And then once I got married and my wife and I were kind of like, we both put our minds together, we were like, oh, wow, we've been wrong this whole time. And then I realized that it was a real turning point when I could no longer pretend to know what I didn't know. Like the faith thing just kind of was like, it left me. I couldn't pretend to, I couldn't tell my friends that this is the way things are unless I could reproduce it to them. That whole kind of a thing.
One of my earliest memories is when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. And my parents told me and my older brother that we were going to this thing called Sunday school. Do they have that in France, Sunday school?
No.
Sunday?
We have catechism, which is like where you go and learn about all the religious stuff, but it's not on a specific
It's a bit like
day.
that. It's a bit like Bible study or something.
Ronald knows maybe more about it than me.
Yeah, and this is probably in an area where there might be folks that Marty. No, you were in Manitoba, but anyways, and so my older brother and I were going to this Sunday school. I think we went 2 or 3 times, and I think it was because my parents wanted to have some time alone on Sunday because there were 3 of us. Right, we're all young. They were very young. My parents were very young when they had 3 of us. Right, so I think they had three kids by the time they were like 22 years old. They moved us all to Canada. They didn't know anyone in Canada, had none of their family around them, so they sent us to this thing called Sunday school because everyone else did it. Right. After about 2 or 3 times, I remember my dad pulling me aside and was like, "So, what's this? You having a good time? You meeting people?" And my brother and I were like, "No, we're just like, we're not really getting it." He's like, let me talk to the priest. I'll come over and we'll have a chat about it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So the next weekend, the priest comes in and says hello. And then my dad says, "Oh, you guys sit down there and have a sandwich. Let me talk to the priest alone in the back, in the kitchen or something." And then he comes out with the priest and he leads him out the front door and he kind of slams the door and he comes over to me and he looks me in the eye. He says, "I'm really sorry, son. You don't have to go back to Sunday school." And that was it.
Yeah.
It was over, and I'll never forget that. It was just so, I think they, in fact, afterwards, my mom had told me, "Oh yeah, no, I was so embarrassed. Your dad got into a big argument with a priest."
Interesting. Yeah. I went to Sunday school my whole life.
Just the way he kind of looked at us and said, "I'm sorry." no, you don't need to go back.
Hmm.
That really stuck with me over the years. In retrospect, of course, given what I started to understand about religion and society, and institutions and whatnot.
Do you still enjoy some of the gospel music from a just pure musical perspective?
I love it, Stunty. In fact, there's this album from 1978 by this group called the Imperials, and they're a white gospel soul group. Well, in the late 70s, they were more soul kind of disco-y. And I have a LP copy, and whenever I see one, occasionally up on eBay, you can find one that's still sealed. And so I have they're sealed, waiting to just like gift to the right people. It's so good. But yeah, I really do enjoy, and that's one thing that I've had in common with Rachel and Sue. I've sent them several records, several Christian gospel records that they like. We have that that we're simpatico on this thing. They know exactly what I'm talking about, and it's kind of one of those things where like, unless you know, you don't know about early Christian music from the 70s and early 80s and stuff like that. And Rachel was kind of, I mean, she knows I'm not religious anymore and I've come out of that or whatever, but we still have this kind of, we know what this music was all about at the time. So I still do. Yeah. I still do enjoy gospel music. I don't, but it's mostly related to my past.
And you mentioned that band Imperial that had some kind of a disco thing. In the early days of Rachel, I remember one time not necessarily confronting, but like talking about a topic that unfortunately most Americans are oblivious to, even if they lived through it without realizing, is the disco sucks movement, which I don't know how familiar or not at all you are with it, but in the so basically by the mid 70s, disco is the most popular music in America. And sociologically, what's really strong about disco goes much beyond the music. And when I tried to explain that to Elliot, Cruz, and other people like that, they were like, I got a lot of pushback. But then they realized that
Why? Because they didn't believe that there was a social, cultural, political element to music.
No, but like they didn't realize how secluded their own cultural life was. And because what disco actually did was that it was the first time there was music that was mainstream, at least in the big cities, where the blacks were allowed, the Asians were allowed, the gays were allowed, the ugly were allowed. The old people were allowed. Basically, it was the first time where all these segments of the population met.
Yeah.
Which is not at all what the neocons want. They want to separate people.
There's a nice section in one of the recent Bee Gees documentaries that talks about that. It's right on point, right? With the study was talking.
How it connects with religion is interesting, because what we have such short memory, but like, when did Roe v. Wade happen in the US? Like in the 70s.
Yeah.
And of course there was some pushback, but much less than there is now, which means that actually, in general, the American churches were more progressive than they are now. What happened is that the neocons gave a lot of money to the church, bought the radio stations, told the DJs, say that disco sucks. In 1980 in Chicago, they gathered people in one of the big stadiums there and told the people, come with your disco records and we're going to destroy them.
And we'll blow them up.
Exactly like the Nazis did with the books. They literally did that in the US and said that disco is responsible for all the corruption, blah, blah, blah. And and the result of that was the decade of this weird thing of, now we have to go back to the white, powerful, strong macho man with long hair,
who
lives in an adolescent power fantasy world. basically this whole thing that is, you can have nostalgia, you can have you can have lived through it and have some sort of fun nostalgia about it, but it's difficult to take it seriously. Whereas in disco, if sure it was music for fun, but for dancing, what is it? It's the body, and that's what the church is about, is afraid of often.
There's this Mennonite joke that there's a reason why Mennonites don't have sex standing up, because it might lead to dancing.
I've heard that one before. Yeah.
So this is the album. So if you stream this, if just for shits and giggles, it's called "One More Song for You" by the Imperials, and the second guy right there, Russ. His name is Russ Taff. He's one of the greatest vocalists and lead vocalists in gospel music of all time. But these guys were the #1 gospel group for probably 10 years straight. They won Grammys.
Imperials, you say?
The Imperials, yeah, the Imperials. But it's and get this. They see the guy in the middle right there. That's Michael Omardian. He produced Christopher Cross's hit album. Remember Christopher Cross?
Mm-hmm.
Sailing? Yeah. And he also did work with Steely Dan and a bunch of other people. But he produced this album, and it is...
I thought it was Phil Spector for a second there.
No, right? Yeah, it kind of looks... He's got the hair. But, But, I mean, they loved him so much that they put the producer of the album on the back of the cover.
Yeah.
Right?
They're having a lot of fun.
But it's really... I don't know. The whole first side is just tremendous, and then the last song is called "The Eagle Song." On the first side, it's just really amazing harmonies and stuff like that. So,
and Marty, what about country music? How did that intersect with the story that you're telling us? Was that part? Because that's kind of for me when we lived down in Tennessee for about 6 or 9 months back in 1976. And that was my entree into what I would call kind of conservative American music. I know that sounds very naive and everything, but obviously there's certain politics to that music, and still is today, although it's changed a bit.
I didn't the country music when I was a teenager and stuff like that was when pop country started to come out more, and so I didn't get into it at all.
What years were you a teenager then? This is more of the
there would have been like the mid 80s to the mid 90s basically. And there were bands I liked, like Diamond Rio, and some George Strait and stuff, but I was mostly into rock music at that time. And I like older country, Merle and Waylon and Johnny and that kind of stuff.
Conway Twitty,
yeah. There's some great albums from '74. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite country folk album from '74 is Gene Clark's "No Other."
Yep.
Oh, No Other. It's that. What a great album! Isn't that awesome? I kind of panned at the time, and I think David Geffen didn't want to release it or didn't want to promote it or whatever, but that's just the title track is just so good. I love that. That's one of my favorites from '74. Yeah.
Hey folks, I'm gonna have to jump in. Sorry, I ordered some food for the kids, and
yeah. You've been going for a while, haven't you?
Family time. No, we have been going for a little while.
Yeah.
So it's nice because actually I was feeling a little shaky this afternoon. We took them out for lunch, and my concussion was still making me feel a little shaky. So when we started, I wasn't in the best of place, but I think just sitting down and chatting's been really nice and kind of calmed down my messed up brain. So thank you for that. It's been a really, really great chat. Seeing you again, Marty. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's good hanging out with you.
Yeah,
you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool to learn more about you, Marty.
Okay, yeah. So we'll see you all around the block.
Absolutely, Stanty. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Ramon, à bientôt. Let's have that. Let's have that chat about the Toronto Montreal record store stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be in touch.
Cheers.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Have a great night.
Bye.
Et on les